wonderful sponsors over at.
Hello? Why am I muted? What the fuck? I have no idea why I was muted there. Sorry, shouldn't have happened. Does my voice sound okay now? Strange, very strange. Not sure why. Is it quiet? I didn't do anything to mute myself. Sorry, I'm fiddling around with the audio now, but it looks quiet. No, it shouldn't be quiet. I've got no idea, and I was saying hello to all of you. Hello, Johnny Groan. Hello, Anna Banan. Hello, Meout. Hello, the Noxolotl. Hello, Bananova Slupka. Hello, Elab. First time in forever I've gotten up early enough for this. Sorry it's so early. I don't know where you're based. Probably US, I'm guessing. Probably the time zone of what's his name? Isaac, my dear co-host. Right, we'll start off by doing the Wordle, as we always do. It's always a good way to start. We started with a U, so gonna do inept to start off. Oh, the E's there. I'm gonna try freak. Oh no. Oh no. No. What's the news today? So much. The audio is good now. I just have no idea why it would have been silent at the start. There's no explanation as to why. But we move. I've never done Wordle. It hurts my brain. It's not too bad. Dweem? No. Plead. No, we've used the Is it something like that? Oh, okay. That was actually a surprisingly good guess. I thought that was going to be terrible because of the last two and then fine because of the first. But I don't know. You're muted, Chris. I know I was muted. Sorry, I don't know why I'm reading old chat right now. Chess, that's wrong. Maybe it's triple S. I can't think of words that end in ESS. Bless, maybe. That's one, definitely. Guess. Press, it can't be. I'm going to guess that because then it takes out, it could be bless or guess. Yeah, it's guess. Nice, got it. There we go. That wasn't that terrible. Now let's do the connections. Hope you're all good today. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's live. There should be a VOD version of the debate with Loner Box up tomorrow or today. And then, tomorrow, exciting stuff. I'll mention when I think I've mentioned before, but I don't remember, but I'll talk about it shortly. I don't know any words, neither do I. Sup, Chris? Not much, Hermio. Hermio Taurus. Taurus. Nagok. Hello, Chris. Hello to you too. Hello, everyone who's here. K. L. Grill. Bunny. It feels like Grill Seer should go together, but I don't know. Sprinkler. Garden Gnome. Garden Shed. garden sprinkler, garden grill, garden bunny, garden ears, garden Sarah, garden devil, garden bowl, garden L, garden jacket, garden R, garden Aries, garden seer. Do you think it is garden? We here. Yes, we are indeed, urchin. What do you I feel like it is something garden shed garden. I want to see if I can get the garden grill. I'm gonna go for. Oh wow, things seen in a yard. Oh my god, it wasn't even what I thought it was, but it was right in the end. I'm a clever chap there. You see that one? Q. Hold on, I will look at what you're saying in a second. I'm temporarily blind because I haven't got glasses on. Do you think the piracy could be cool? Could be cool. It was an old-fashioned way, like sail ships with gunpowder cannons. The whole helicopter landing on top seems like it takes the fun out of it. I don't know. The Houthis did it, and it looked pretty interesting. What do you think, K? What, you think it's seer, ears, Aries, and ears? They're all spellings of the same thing. Anagrams. Sorry, they all use the same words. And then you think it's what? Q, K, R, L. R, L, Q, Q. And then these are Dust Bowl, Dust Bunny. What are these? Dust Devil, Dust Jacket. What's a Dust Devil? Is that like a brand of Hoover? I didn't know if you guys might fancy, because I haven't got much news to cover. I saw a video that really intrigued me about the fall-off of Ben Shapiro. I mean, there's definitely enough to do, like, news-wise today. But, yeah. Up to you guys. I mean, there's a lot of Barry Weiss, Hasbari, and... what's her name? Erica Kirk. Vacuum cleaner. Hoover. Spelling bee. Maypole. Oh, look at that. Come on. Oh, that's the little mini tornado looking thing. What is? A dust devil? A dust bunny? Which is that? Oh, mad. I've never heard of those. Surprisingly, we don't get them in the UK. We don't really have any interesting weather, just rain and misery. Yeah, I saw the Democrat. We said watch that yesterday. It said if you aren't feeling well, transgender for you. Well, on that topic of pinning Mosen's campaign, there's someone else's campaign that I want to pin, which I will do. But I think at a certain point, I think that something like, oh God, the Samir Project, is that what I've called, if I got it wrong? I think is also a great place that you can donate to. Yeah, I was right. The Samir Project. If anyone wants to donate to a project, you can donate to the Samir Project. We'll pin the Discord link when someone's in here that can do it. Dust bunny are just anthropomorphic pieces of dust. This is real. Mole. Poil. McPoil. He prescribed me beta blockers. They prescribed me every single day with transgender because I wasn't feeling well that right. But you know, what can you do? I'm trying to think of one of these. Pay meal, is that a word? No, because I'm thinking of piecemeal, mixing it with. I don't know. Maple, but that you need a Y in it. I started off so well. And now it's just down. I know that beta blockers aren't to do with transgender. Don't worry. Beta blockers are a thing to do with stress, aren't they? Lolly, Nice, that's a good one. Oh. Wait, is that not how you spell lolly? Why is that not a word? Loyal is a good one. Mopey, that's another good one. Mapai, it's the Israeli political party spelled incorrectly that David Ben-Gurion belonged to. Mappy, so apparently that's not a word. Pappy, how is that a word? That's all I get for today, and I finished with Pappy. As someone who has looked into gender-affirming care, transphobes overestimate how easy it is to get. You're wrong. You're wrong. Everyone is transgender according to my hero Donald Trump. So you know, that's how it is. By the way, there's now a video of Israelis celebrating Hanukkah in the tunnels in Gaza. But I don't know if I can show it. I feel like I'll get in trouble for doing that. Or acute anxiety systems too. It lowers your heart rate, I guess. Oh, interesting. Adrenaline, stress, and heartbeat depends on why you're prescribed them. Very interesting. Thanks for letting me know. Good morning from Cali. Hello from England. Hello from Londonistan. That's the whole of England to you Americans. To you fucking Yanks. Oh yeah, wait. I guess I don't know enough about it, but you know what? Fuck Tucker Carlson in so many different ways. I mean, there's an article which it's kind of hard to talk about, but if any of you are interested in reading about it, there's a really interesting article about how Trump and his team basically served the Tates. Saved the Tates, sorry. Served the Tates. I mean, in many ways, yeah, they served the Tates. But if you want to read into this, it's an interesting story. It includes how there are allegations about beating and having sex with a 15-year-old from Andrew Tate, but I mean, that doesn't surprise me. The guy's a horrible guy. But apparently, Baron Trump... Why is that not finding anything? His name is spelled with 2 R's. God, that photo of Baron Trump looks so unusual. So unusual. Why does he look so big? I mean, he is a big guy, isn't he? But Jesus Christ. But yeah, his younger brother Baron was also a fan. Listen to this. That spring, as his father was going after young male voters on the campaign trail, the teenager hosted a dinner at Mar-a-Lago for influencers. Among them was Mr. Waller, who has helped run the Tate's courses and told the Times he is widely seen as the third Tate brother. Who would not want that honour? Thank you, I had a haircut, which no one's noticed yet, but thanks for saying I look good. And that was the big excitement of my day, as always. Yeah. The conversation that night meandered, Mr. Waller said, from calling each other degenerate names to discussing potential running mates for Trump, who also made an appearance and agreed to go on the podcast of another guest, Patrick Bet-David. Mr. Waller has tried to play a big brother role for Barron. He said visiting Mar-a-Lago and talking to him about dating. The president's youngest son is not a bad ally to have, let's be frank. He and Barron spoke to Andrew, as in Andrew Tate, on Zoom. Mr. Waller said, while the teenager was having a suit fitted by Mr. Waller's tailor. Although they discussed the Romanian case, Barron did not say anything about helping the Tates, Mr. Waller said. They also talked about supporting Mr. Trump's presidential campaign on their online platforms. That summer, when a young man tried to assassinate Mr. Trump, Mr. Tate told reporters that he had talked to Barron after the shooting. I'm very close to the Trump family, he added. I look forward to, once I am free, being with Donald Trump in person and reminding him that he's a bulletproof badass. How tall is Baron Trump? 2.06 meters. So he's 6'7".
It's utterly ridiculous.
Oh, Jesus. Not a rig, a drug lab. Thanks, dear leader Trump. Thanks, moderate. I can't see your full name. Hold on, let me look at your full name. Moderate message. Thanks for the $2. Hassan Parker. Did I say Hassan Parker? Is that something I just said? I don't know. Who is this Waller guy? Justin Waller. I wasn't wrong. I kept thinking his name was Justin Waller. Wow, this guy is jacked. God.
Day in-person event in Miami where I'm going to expose everything I've learned in the last 15 years of construction and real estate.
I'll be going to this.
Women who want to try a cigar. Got 2 of these, and then how many of us are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 men, right?
Well, 3 men and then Bailey. Bailey's here.
Lady, you smoking a cigar, yeah? Right. If I move to Miami like I think I will, if you get something really special in, price doesn't matter, you let me know.
Wow, imagine how cool it must be being Baron Trump and hanging out with the Tate brothers. That must be epic. Here's a photo of them together. America is the greatest superpower that ever was. 2024 is our opportunity to keep it that way. Sorry, I don't know if you can see that. I'll read it. It will take every man and woman in every corner of every small town to do so. Let's not let this man or our great legacy down in November. We worked too hard for this. Let's keep the crown. The US president looking like a wax sculpture. I'm not liking Damien Thar's message. Sorry about that. But yeah, crazy image. This photo does look weird. Trump looks terrible there. I wonder why he looks so fucking bad. Also, now that there are more of you here, I've got some exciting news. I'm talking with, or I may have mentioned it before, but tomorrow I'm talking with Noah Sampson, with my wonderful co-host, Overzealots, and he's going to be talking about the lawsuit. He's going to be breaking the silence on that. Well, he's already spoken about it, but, you know, we're going to be chatting to him about all things, so get over to No Politics Here if you want to see that when it comes out. It's very exciting stuff. He looks especially balding. Have you seen the photo of... I know this photo isn't real, but Trump without makeup and a wig looks so crazy. Like that, I really don't think that that's an outrageous thing of what he might actually look like. And he looks terrifying. Like, imagine, this man, like, literally looks like the epitome of evil. When will we get either Chris merch? I don't know if I'd ever do merch, to be honest. I don't know if there's anything I'd want to send you. He looks like Putin. He does. He looks terrifying. But, I mean, more power to Trump for not looking like that. Oh, sorry. Right. I kind of went on a bit of a tangent. But Tucker Carlson was doing some... He interviewed Francesca Albanese, and, like, however bad I may think this guy is, and by the way, he did a softball interview. Oh my fucking god, I've accidentally just closed my shit. Which is not good. Hold on. I've just closed my shit. I've just got it back. Looks like James Spader, but as a corpse. Yeah, he does look like James Spader, but as a corpse. You can, yeah, make your DIY Chris Kunzler merch. Just tattoo my name. That's the merch. Oh god, that looks terrible. Oh, that's why. But yeah, let's have a listen of this.
You wouldn't even realize that she's the daughter of an Italian because she's American educated. She goes to the American school. She's raised according to American values, more than Italian values, I can tell you. And
that's for the best. Italian values. Ooh.
This is a betrayal for us from the United States. Where is the freedom of thought? Where is freedom of expression?
I don't really know how to respond to what you're telling me. I just want to ask you one last time. Is there anything you're leaving out? Did you send money to Hamas? Did you shoot at the IDF? Are you secretly married to Nasrallah? Or like what? I don't understand how you could have been treated like this without actively aiding a terror group.
The thing about this guy is like, he is definitely awful, and he's definitely a Trump supporter, but the fact that Albanese is on his show and just being shown to, you know, all of the people who would like Tucker Carlson is crazy.
Look, the only one who's aiding and abetting someone else committing crime is the United States.
Yeah.
Let me be very clear.
He was joking, by the way. That's why he asked the question, to show how kind of ridiculous it is. Secretly married to Nasrallah. I do think that that's a joke. I don't think he actually asked that question because he thought that was the case.
I'm sorry to agree with you on that. So who?
No, this is not the American Piers, because if Piers Morgan had Tucker Carlson, had Francesca Albanese on, all he'd be doing is going, "Do you condemn Hamas?" In fact, he probably has had her on.
Who did this to you exactly, and how do you get it fixed?
Well, I know that the United Nations is working hard behind the scenes to have the sanctions removed. There have been tons and tons of pledges to the United States from special rapporteurs, independent experts of the United Nations, many.
She's the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied territories, the occupied Palestinian territories.
States. But here's the system. The system is very weak at the moment because
Tucker Carlson is, you're definitely correct, a very smart grifter. But in the sense of bringing on Albanese, it's crazy to show someone like this to such a wide audience. And also how much of an actual affront this is to the Trump administration and all of those around him. No doubt this would probably anger a lot of the people around Trump more than having a relationship with Fuentes. Although, actually, to be honest, I guess they hate Fuentes for sapping the base.
The United States is using its power, its leverage to bend the arm of the system. And by doing that, it will make everyone, including American citizens, less and less protected.
It doesn't seem to be acting on behalf of its own people. I don't know what this has to do with what's happening in the United States. It seems like we are completely casting aside the rule of law, fairness, decency on behalf of another country. Maybe I'm missing something.
Like, genuinely, Piers Morgan would be sat here going, no. Why don't you condemn Hamas?
Look, you know, for a long time, I've been thinking that Israel had the capacity to exert so much influence on the United States, and I couldn't figure out how. I don't think it's that, in the sense there is something deeper, and it's the fact that we are fooled by this idea of states representing us. No, eventually states are in the hands of powers, military power, economic, financial power, and the power of the algorithm. And this is why today imagining states as responding, serving the interest of people, it's a fallacy.
Yeah, I mean, let's have a look at what Piers had to say to her. This seems to be a bit where they talk about Hamas.
140 UN staff members. It has fired UN peacekeepers. It has destroyed 70% of UN premises, including clinics, including schools in Gaza alone. This is unprecedented, and it shouldn't be condoned because it might be seen as a precedent for other catastrophic situations. So this is why it's about time to draw a red line.
You, on December the 28th, 2023, tweeted, "What Israel is doing to the Palestinians, especially in Gaza, is, quote, the monstrosity of our century." Mm-hmm. But 2 months before that, October the 7th, on the day of the terror attack by Hamas, you tweeted, "Today's violence must be put in context. Almost 6 decades of hostile military rule over an entire civilian population, incomprehensibly ignored by too many official statements and media outlets, are in themselves an aggression and the recipe for more insecurity for all." People took that to be almost a justification for what Hamas did that day.
Yeah,
like, listen to this.
They were wrong. They were wrong, and they were very simplistic, because there is nothing about justifying crimes. I've said it, and I've been adamant. Civilians must be protected under all circumstances. Doesn't matter their nationality or their ethnicity, what they've done before, if they've been soldiers or combatants. Civilians must be protected from attacks, injury, killing, taking hostages.
Nagok, thanks for becoming a member. Welcome to Level 1. Hello, Silent Scythe. Silent Scythe, I think you're the only mod in here today.
Kidnapping. So I've condemned Hamas attacks to the extent...
Was it a terrorist attack?
I mean, spreading terror is a method in situation of armed conflict. So, I mean, we could qualify it as terrorism. The discomfort I have in using the terrorism framework is that it doesn't exist in international law. There is no definition of what constitutes terrorism under international law that is agreed among member states. So this is why I...
The reason that there also can never be an agreed upon definition of terrorism under international law is because by any metric, Israel, the United States, and all of their allies would be the far greater perpetrators than any militant organization.
Uncomfortable. Other than that, yes, let's call it terrorism. But the fact that we qualify...
I'm dancing in the Piers studio, hell yeah.
...this as terrorism doesn't justify what Israel has done as of October the 9th. You see what I mean? So...
Well, okay, on that point, so... This is where I would question you. You say October the 9th, so you think it was wrong?
Like, genuinely, it is amazing watching Tucker Carlson give a better interview to Francesca Albanese than Piers Morgan.
That 2 days after this, Israel launched an attack back at the people who perpetrated an appalling terrorist attack, which killed 1,200 people. It wounded nearly 7,000 more, one of the worst terror attacks of modern times. What else was Israel supposed to do on October the 9th? Sit there and wait for another attack?
Okay, can I unpack it? But you give me a couple of minutes to, because it's quite a sensitive point, but I appreciate the question. So Israel, the day is...
And of course, the British Empire, any Western power by any metric would be the biggest terrorists to have ever existed. Like, put simply, how much did we hear that we have to condemn what the Houthis did, and then America today seizes a ship in the exact same manner, and not with any, like, reasonable justification?
Israel was attacked. It had all the rights to defend itself, to protect its citizens, its territory, and therefore to repel the attack with all necessary and proportional measures, which means using force, including lethal force, arresting, detaining all persons involved and found on its territory, which happened between the 7th, 8th, and the 9th of October. Some, including in Israeli sources, accused Israel of having used excessive use of force, but this is beyond the point. The point is that Israel didn't have the right to wage a war against the Palestinians in Gaza. It didn't, Piers.
It didn't? Well, hang on.
No,
again, I have a question on that. Israel absolutely had a right to go after the terrorists who committed this, surely. I mean, if you have a 3,000 terrorists pouring over your border, murdering in a most brutal manner women.
What a world we live in. And also, I just mean every few months Piers Morgan gets called like this great voice on Palestine who's doing balanced interviews. And this is the kind of interview he was doing a few months ago with Albanese. Like, the only interesting interview with Albanese is to talk about the stuff of, oh, isn't it weird that for, like, condemning Israel, you're being targeted in this way when there are so many figures who are just overtly pro-Israel who receive no backlash?
Children, innocent civilians, all the things you've said that they've been doing to Palestinians, and we'll come to that. But I'm just interested about your mindset in the aftermath of October the 7th. Absolutely, Israel had a right to go after Hamas, surely.
Piers Morgan's headed the same way as Randy Fine. He's turning into a cherry tomato to big up Israel.
Doesn't
stop at the borders, does it?
Piers, I would be very careful because mutatis mutandis, this eye for an eye logic would justify what has happened on October 7. And I totally refuse to go there because if we take your argument that the violence suffered by the Israelis on October 7 justifies what has been happening as October 9, this might lead to justify what has happened.
What did they do? Well, hang on. What did they do on October the 9th that you think was unacceptable?
Self-defense, and please bear with me, because self-defense has a meaning in international law, and it's a term of art that doesn't correspond to the common parlance. Self-defense is not the right to protect itself, which Israel has within its own borders. So if you ask me the question, what would Israel done to be in line with international law? Israel had to do what I said, in line, so repelling the attack and trying to get the hostages back. Waging a war was neither proportionate.
How do you get them back?
Negotiating.
With Hamas?
It's so funny. It's so funny. Obviously, negotiating was the only way to bring back hostages. Israel just went on a killing spree of their own hostages over and over again.
Excuse me, what Israel has been doing is to trying to get the hostages back, both through negotiation and killing civilians.
Let
me turn the question back to you.
If you didn't actually go out...
45,000 people killed later. 155 people either killed, maimed, or 2 million people starving and traumatized. How has this liberated the hostages? Do we realize how dehumanizing this is?
That's a different point, and I don't disagree with you. And I also think the proportionate response of Israel has gone way beyond what I think is acceptable, just to be clear. But we're going to come to that, because that's now that's many months later, so over a year later. I'm just curious about your mindset about what you think they had a right to do, because the International Criminal Court hasn't come after Netanyahu and Gallant.
I think they had a right to abolish them damn selves.
For attacking Hamas in Gaza. They've gone after them, but they haven't said that was wrong. They haven't said that actually attacking Hamas in Gaza was a crime. They've said that the crime is starvation and other issues surrounding this. In other words, what Israel would call the collateral damage. I don't agree it's collateral damage. I think it's moved into something far worse. But
it was never collateral. This is also... I can't listen to any more of Piers Morgan. It's a real shocking time. Let's see this other interview.
Services and access to data, Palestinian, Microsoft, who have provided their services and access to data, Palestinian data, that has allowed Israel to set up systems to mass target and mass kill Palestinians. There is an application called Where is Daddy that allows the army to randomly track people and reach them when they are with their families, so as to inflict the most harm. How brutal is it? And I agree with you. This is something that people must understand, because this is the end of humanity, the end of the civilization that we have.
Tucker's face is fucking insane. Long time no see. Might I recommend a subject for you next? Chicago South Shore apartments raided by ICE in September. Now all tenants evicted. I've not heard anything about that. I'd need to research it. But thank you for the recommendation. Sorry, I also need to take on my jumper. I'm too hot. God, today is the first day I've not been to the gym in like 4 days, and I feel so good for it. I don't think Brace Belden will be coming on the podcast anytime soon.
Pretended to belong to until now. Israel has the most sophisticated military army in the region, and Israel is knowing exactly what it's doing and has been knowing this for 2 years. And this is why there are also so many soldiers now breaking down. The level of suicides is increasing among young Israelis who have served in the army. And of course so, because they are just older than teenagers, and they've been turned by indoctrination.
I don't know. I just think Tucker and Piers are both terrible people. Like, sure, Tucker's probably surprisingly somehow better on the issue of Palestine. I mean, he's still a Trump supporter, but Piers is also a Trump supporter. But the other thing is that this guy was like a big part of bringing Andrew Tate back. He did a huge interview with Tate just to get him for his own political clout. And I don't think he's a good man at all.
Into the willful executioners of a genocide.
I think Piers Morgan is the biggest definition of a grifter. Piers Morgan sticks his finger up in the air to find out which way the wind's blowing in the morning and then decides to go with that. The only reason he changed his opinions on Palestine was because he noticed a massive swing, and being an odious defender of Israel wouldn't be acceptable. But he didn't even take that big of a leap. Like, people like Tucker Carlson also grifted in that way, sure, and they like took a major leap. But in the context of in the context of Tucker, you know, he's just taken the far bigger leap. Piers can't even take the leap because he just wants to grift off all sides.
This is why I'm saying we must intervene. People who love Israel must intervene to save what remains of Israel. The biggest harm is being done by those outside of Israel who keep on defending this regime that not only has imposed a military dictatorship for decades on the Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and until 2005 in Gaza, but also on the Israelis who are part of the system. You cannot brutalize the other without losing your humanity in the process.
Right. That's exactly right. So
it is funny to hear Tucker Carlson go, "Oh, this is absolutely right," when, come on, bro. Oh, come on, bro.
Just, I want you to clarify something I think I...
Like, you know America does that and then gets upset about the consequences in its own country.
Heard you say that there is some kind of app maybe made by an American company called Where's Daddy that allows the Israeli government to murder men in front of their children? Did I dream that, or did you say that?
No, I said basically Israel has developed, it's not an app, it's a system. Israel has developed these...
It's also funny that Tucker Carlson just knows nothing. Like, genuinely not knowing this. This was something that came out ages ago. This is not like major new news, is it?
This system, automatized system to decide the targets through a computing system, and the data has been provided by tech.
Piers is a grifter, whereas Tucker's is an ideological white nationalist who wants less support for Israel because he thinks it isn't beneficial for American. It's wild that Piers is worse than him. Yeah, I think that that's actually a great summary. He is also, like, definitely a grifter. I think that Piers Morgan just does it in such a way where he feels like a bigger grifter because he does it on the basis of, I am just going to say a couple of things about Palestine to pretend I'm pro-Palestine to try and garner a major audience, but then also is simultaneously not changed at all because, you know, he gets an interview with Albanese and asks her to condemn Hamas months later. Like, let's be frank here. Why are we having conversations about October the 7th at this point? It is so long ago. Unless you're talking about stuff, you know, to do with, well, actually what happened that day. Because I'm going to be frank, what did happen that day? Because we still haven't got the official narrative out of Israel when the UN went there and they said, because this is the thing, the UN said that they found no physical, they said they had physical abuse of conflict-based sexual violence, but the UN did not say that they'd seen direct evidence of the mass rape that Israel had claimed about. It just didn't happen. And Israel blocked it for being anti-Semitic. Surely the best thing to do would have been to get the UN to go and look at this dearth of evidence that they had and then say, look how anti-Semitic you were, you didn't believe anything. But, like, of course, Israel's still not allowing, investigations into any of these things, you know? But there was a good tweet from Ugopnik. Thought daughter versus gay son is old news. I introduced to you Chud imperialist versus gay imperialist. Their Pete, our Pete. That's a Pete Buttigieg, isn't it? Buttigieg, sorry. No, it's not Pete Buttigieg, it's Buttigieg. Sorry for my inappropriate comment. But yeah, I like that tweet. I like that a lot. There's a quick video I wanted to just watch here of an economist talking about why we need a wealth tax in the UK. So sit back and enjoy some UK politics nonsense. Some drivel from the UK politics. I'm sure this isn't actually drivel.
Get resources from people above us. We are going to eat the people below us.
Is extreme wealth becoming more unequal, more...
Jesus Christ! This is just the smallest, like the most ridiculous thing to say. Is this a thing happening? Of course it is.
Egregious.
Yeah, it's always been, very unequal, but indeed it's getting worse and worse. The bottom 50% of the population in a country like the UK or France owns less than 5% of total wealth, which for 50% of the population is really very little. The top 1% is going to own, 30% of total wealth. And in any case, there's nothing you can do about it because, we have put in place a system of free capital flows such that, there's no way to go back. It's a one-way ticket forever for the rest of history.
Did any of you see that video of like the libbed out guy who was like, if you have money, it's really easy to make loads of money, but if you don't have money, it's really hard to make loads of money. It was a really profound statement.
The very rich won't pay tax, and the nice immobile people from the middle class.
You're
and lower
stuck,
class,
basically.
you will have to pay for them, and that's tough life. Too bad for you. And then what do you get? That people are so disgusted, with this working of the economic systems, and in the end, because you tell them they cannot look up and they cannot do anything with people at the top, they start looking down and they say, okay, so because we cannot get resources from people above us, we are going to eat the people below us. And who are the people below us? The poor, the migrants, the foreigners.
He keeps saying eat. Okay, bro.
Whatever, and you start eating them. That's not going to solve the problem of the middle class. So at the end of the day, this is a situation that is just not sustainable. So
why have
It is crazy. One of my lecturers, who I adored, had a very strong French accent, and I like what he was like talking to us about it one time. He said it was because all people who teach French in English just have really strong French accents. So it's like you just end up copying it basically. But it is interesting. And that's not to say other people don't maintain their accents, but I do feel like French people's English is very, very, very strongly inflected with the French accent.
governments then adopted wealth taxes? Why is it so difficult for governments to make that decision?
Because this will force, government to renounce to treaties that were signed in the past, which they still feel very attached to, and they are afraid that if they do that, they will enter an area of complete, international chaos where everybody will do what's wrong. And look, I understand.
They're afraid, basically. You're saying
they're afraid, and I can see why. But at the same time, there are limits to this fear, and at the end of the day, you end up in a situation where, this entire system of free trade and free capital flow is collapsing in front of us.
Well, that was an interesting-ish video, all delivered with a nice French accent. Right, there's a couple of things that I wanted to do before we get into the main story. Would any of you be interested in watching this video about the sharp fall of Ben Shapiro? I started watching it, and it seemed really, really interesting. From Jose. This one, I don't know if any of you would be interested, because obviously I'm interested in this kind of stuff, and we could just do it before we get into the news. I don't know. Let me know if you guys want to do it before, or maybe we should do it after. Oui? Are you saying oui to the watching the video? This video looks really interesting. Need an older French woman to put out a cigarette for me. Sacré bleu. Yes, okay, right. Shall we do it first, or shall we do it after? You know what? Let's do it first, actually. I'll make the decision, unless you all guys all say no.
Great for Ben Shapiro. Things haven't been going great for Ben Shapiro. The former darling of right-wing media has been under a lot of fire from his right flank, and his once enviable position now seems very precarious.
I haven't watched the full video. I watched I watched a bit of it, but I think that the thing for me is that, like, if this basically doesn't talk about the problem of needing to odiously cling to Israel when it's clearly something that your new base is turning away from, then I think it's difficult. I'd also love if it talks about, like, the Daily Wire's waste of money, although he has another video about it.
Only 8 years ago, things were dramatically different as Ben Shapiro was making his ascent. Back on November 13th, 2017, an article in the New York Times described conservative commentator Ben Shapiro as the cool kids philosopher. The article is a relatively gentle profile of Shapiro, describing him as a conservative firebrand who holds extreme views, who is finding a young audience online. There's a part of this article that has an odd echo in the present. It reads, Mr. Shapiro is trying to define conservatism at a time when its meaning is up for grabs, and the Republican Party and traditional conservative media outlets like Fox are built for older audiences.
I think that the thing, though, is that these people just moved it towards, like, even more Nazi-like politics. And Ben Shapiro, as someone just put in the chat, has the problem of being Jewish.
This is even truer now, but the next sentence in the article is even more interesting. Shapiro does not...
I think Ben is cool. I think he's a real gladiator.
...like President Trump, and he disagrees with his old boss at Breitbart News, Stephen K. Bannon, that Trumpism is the future of the Republican Party. Obviously, Ben Shapiro has changed his tune long since then, and that's part of how Shapiro has succeeded, a combination of being morally lucky within the context of conservative politics and willing to sit at the altar of Trump, cashing in on the rightward shift represented by Trump, and knowing when to fall in line when he saw where that push towards the right was actually coming from. Not people like him, but the constituency more...
Yeah, I forgot the wet-ass P-word stuff.
...aligned with Donald Trump. This nimble movement helped him ascend the space to be one of the most popular voices in online conservative media in the early 2020s. But his metrics have been way down in 2025. In fact, I suspect further down than the publicly available data suggests. The reason...
God, is that since 2023? Oh, wait. Look at October 2023. So it went up, stayed the same, and then very quickly as you go into 2024, it just goes down and down and down. Daily views up around he didn't even get that much of a boost post October the 7th. A spike in April 2024. I wonder what that was for.
Reasons are many, and ironically, much of it is Shapiro's own making. I want to look through some of that history and explore just how someone can go from being one of the big dogs in the conservative movement to one of its favorite whipping boys. For those somehow unfamiliar with Shapiro's backstory, the very fast version was that he was a young conservative who got a taste of the limelight in conservative commentary before the age of 20. He tried to break into the world of Hollywood and failed.
I've written a couple comedies, kind of hour-long dramedies for, spec script.
And have they been bought?
No.
He helped launch the...
Amazing. I wish I hadn't pre-watched up to there, because earlier I just laughed out loud. And yeah, I thought I was looking at the H3 analytics.
Wire, a conservative media company that had massive success in its earlier years, although its fortunes have turned as of late. I made a whole video about that if you're curious to learn.
Probably involves Candace. Really interesting. Candace Owens leaves Daily Wire. Yeah, it is around March of 2024, so I guess that was when, like, the beef between them was kicking off, and people love watching drama and beef on the internet, so, you know.
More. As the Daily Wire weakens as a company, largely as a result of bad business decisions costing them tens of millions of dollars and losing key talent, driving down
she is a key talent. I can't remember her name, but watching her yesterday, wow.
Worship. Being so closely tied to that company has damaged Shapiro's reputation as well. Even though he isn't the CEO who has been driving some of those bad decisions, this company is still very much associated with him as a talent. Where Shapiro stands on a lot of issues hasn't changed much over the years. Going back to that 2017 New York Times article again, his positions are described like this. His views are extremely...
I honestly cannot believe that, like, Jeremy Boring is the guy who founded the Daily Wire alongside him. Surely he must have made the realization that as a business decision, associating with someone called Jeremy Boring is a terrible idea. Brett Cooper. Also, I was going to try and not cover this, but I think we'll just cover it and it'll read it out.
Conservative. Transgenderism is a mental illness, as per the Encyclopedia of Mental Disorders before 2013. Yes, blacks have been historically discriminated against. No, institutions are not broadly discriminated against them today. The rich pay too much tax. Abortion should be illegal. Social Security ought to be privatized and Obamacare repealed. This is something I just want to mention off the top that, while Shapiro is currently losing ground to people more extremely right-wing than he is, back in 2017 he was already considered pretty far right too. That should tell you a lot about the state of modern conservatism right now, at least in the media space. One key issue is...
Do you remember when he was on, like, the PewDiePie meme review?
Attention, all memes. TikTok.
Create left review some...
Ben Shapiro, do we have time for bonus meme?
So PewDiePie asked me to review some memes. Memes are this thing where people put funny stuff on my phone. Here is one of these memes. Let's take a look.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is real old content.
Fortnite. Okay, so that meme was actually taken from a tape of me at the Dallas airport by my producer, Jonathan Hay, and then I guess they inserted me in a Fortnite background. Now, if I played Fortnite, I'd probably know the reference better. I don't dance. I give this meme a 3. Next meme. Okay, so. Okay,
I can't believe that this was like funny in 2018 or 2017. This feels like an eon ago. Yar, pirate president, me lads. Yeah, we got the first ever pirate president. Although the greatest pirate in history is probably Sir Francis Drake. Like, realistically, didn't Francis Drake just attack far bigger fleets with his? Like, piracy was like not. It's a funny thing how we view piracy. I can't remember where I read that, but it's true.
It says, share if you wish Ben Shapiro was real. I like this one a lot. This one's very good because, in fact, I am a mythical creature, like a winged Pegasus or some sort of griffin. And I guess the idea is that I'm so fantastic that I'm not even real, but you wish I were real. This appeals to my ego. Excellent meme, excellent meme. Next meme, Ben Shapiro destroys my sandcastle that I spent all day making. By okay.
I'm not watching anymore, but he was like a funny meme back then. Now, this was 2nd of November 2018, so it was 7 years ago. Nazi pie strudel. Thanks for the 2200 CLP. I think that's Chilean pesos? I don't know, but thank you. Also, is that Thomas? Have you changed your name? But good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. But honestly, listening to Ben Shapiro back then is crazy. I mean, here he is with Netanyahu. I hadn't even noticed. And that horrible image of Sarah Netanyahu is over in the corner.
My good wife, Sarah. We went to Burger King before we met Trump. I love this guy.
Is that Shapiro has been a steadfast supporter of Israel, making him vulnerable to criticism as he continues to run cover for the obvious genocide happening in Gaza.
Okay, this guy's based. I like him already. He said genocide. It's all good. If you say genocide, it's all fine.
That became more popular in mainstream media throughout 2025. In addition to that, there are several prominent right-wing creators, specifically Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, who very much hold a grudge against Ben Shapiro. As Shapiro's view numbers sharply dropped
my queen
through 2025, he was motivated to respond to the growing alternative in conservative media, one that was growing increasingly hostile towards him. A video from October 30th titled "Woke Politics Infected the Far Right" is his attempt to explain just what's going on.
You do have one party, the Democratic Party, that has increasingly...
What is that thumbnail?
...made it clear that there is a population they do not like, and that population that they apparently do not like is white Christian males. That is the population that must be targeted.
To evidence this claim that the Democrats are targeting white Christian males, he mentions the candidacy of Zoran Mamdani, who was recently elected mayor of New York City. Mamdani received,
ridiculous.
at best...
PewDiePie was of many who normalized such much hate. Yeah, I spoke about this. Like, I think about like all of this era of and you know, like kind of the outrageous videos that iDubbbz, H3, Filthy Frank, they were making at that time, you know, like this outrageous shock humor of say and do the most outrageous things. And the thing is that like, you know, it seems that Filthy Frank doesn't even like being called that anymore. He went and did his own thing. Ethan went and did his own thing. He became an odious Zionist on the internet. And then you had iDubbbz, who seems to have changed for the better. Like, I'm sure he's not a perfect person, but, you know, he seems to have changed for the better.
Tepid support for his candidacy from the Democratic Party, even after winning the party's nomination.
What is it, though, that has held you back? I mean, usually this is somebody that won a Democratic primary. You know, it usually wouldn't be that much of a question whether or not, you know, a congressman from the city of New York, the Democratic leader, would endorse him. What's giving you pause?
Well, we've had very good conversations over the last few months.
He even had supposed fellow Democratic politician Andrew Cuomo run against him in the general election. Whatever problem Shapiro has with Mamdani, it's incredibly dishonest to present him as a representative of the Democratic Party as a whole, or even someone warmly embraced by the party. It's one of the ironies.
It's all because the only attack line that Ben Shapiro has against Mamdani is just he is an evil, monstrous Jew hater. Or I guess the better attack line for someone like this is Islam takeover, you know?
Of Shapiro, though, trying to present the left as being taken over by the extremists, when he has folks even further right than him entrenching themselves on the right. Shapiro's other example of the left targeting of white Christian males is even sillier.
You're people of faith? You go to church on Sunday and pray on church on Sunday and pray on people the rest of the week? What is this? What is this?
Right, the kind of scorn that Nancy Pelosi has for religious people, religious conservatives, who go to church on Sunday and disagree with her on politics. Well, that has led to a massive backlash.
I don't even know how to respond to this. I'm not even convinced that Pelosi is putting on an accent here, but it does remind me of how Candace Owens will string together nonsense anecdotes like these, attach them to a narrative, and pretend like it's a settled story. Again, another irony considering Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro are very much at odds when their methods are quite similar.
Yeah, this is the funny thing. I think that's a great point. Like, how do you deal with this shit? Like, how do you deal with this shit once you're out as, like, a right-winger? You did the same shit, like, listening to Tim Pool whine yesterday. Like, this is you! Candace Owens is you! You complaining about the consequences in your life. It's like, oh, come on, bro. You've done this for years to people.
Sillier later on when he talks about how speaking Spanish is completely fine, but apparently when Mamdani does it, it has an undertone.
If you want to appeal to an audience, speaking to them in their home language is a smart thing to do. But the entire undertone of everything Mamdani does is, I am one of you, right? I am an immigrant. I am not of Western culture.
How does speaking Spanish signal you aren't part of Western culture? The language comes from as far west as you can get in Europe, and it's spoken almost exclusively in the Western Hemisphere. What he means by Western culture here, I suspect, is whiteness. It's the only thing I can imagine him meaning because he's certainly not talking about geography.
Also, by the way, in terms of shaping the Western culture that these people love, Spain played such a big role in that. I really want to find the Ben Shapiro, Nicki Minaj reading.
The problem with Shapiro's argument here isn't that it's laughably silly. At least that's not the problem I want to spend much time on. The problem is how similar it sounds to arguments made by white nationalists like Nick Fuentes. Although Fuentes hates Shapiro, I doubt there's much he'd disagree with when it comes to Shapiro criticizing the Democrats for attacking white Christian men. It all contributes to the same political project. While these guys are openly hostile towards one another, they are very much pushing in the same direction. Shapiro goes into greater detail about how he believes this rise in bigotry on the right arose, and he can only express it in terms where he accuses the left.
So if the left says that white Christian males are the problem, the way that you respond is instead a DEI for precisely the people who are said to be the problem. Right now, the idea is that the systems should only benefit white Christian males.
It's cute that he's trying to rope DEI into all of this, because there's actually a term already for what's being tried here, and it's called white supremacy. And trust me, no one from the right got this idea from the left. And I'm sure Shapiro knows that, but he needs to play these word games to massage this civil war within the right as somehow being the left's fault. When you spend
This video is really good because just listening to someone talk through Ben Shapiro's like insanely stupid rhetoric is just comical.
Your entire career relentlessly attacking the left and excusing the right, he can't even attack the extremists on his side without first pretending like this is...
Spanish is politicized as a third world language spoken by brown people. I don't know what else is to be taken from that. Exactly, 100%. Because realistically, as I'm saying, you know, the Spanish played a major role in the colonization of the Americas, but like, someone like Ben Shapiro would never want to recognize that in spite of the fact that they did stuff that he loved.
Somehow the left's fault. When the truth is, if anyone is to blame here, it's people like him who have been turning a blind eye to this growing problem the whole time. Not because he's unaware of it, but because he's ideologically more similar to it than he's willing to admit. There's a great example of Shapiro's own extreme standards in this very video. He has the audacity to claim that Donald Trump is a normal president.
President Trump is as close to a normie president as we have had in the last several decades. Which is bizarre considering, again, his sort of personality, but that is the reality.
There are masked men in the streets kidnapping people, labeling them criminals without due process, and deporting them, including some being sent to prisons in other countries. He has imposed sweeping tariffs that are wreaking absolute havoc in the economy. He's handed over health and safety to people.
When Ben Shapiro's like 60 or 70, he's going to be a Democrat and he's going to be like, actually, guys, the whole time I was wrong because now they're being mean to Jewish people and the Republican president is no longer protecting Zionism, so he is not good.
Who are gutting medical research and spreading misinformation and anti-vax nonsense. I could go on.
Hunter Biden 2060. I'm voting for Hunter Biden 2060, guys.
On for far longer listing all the very non-normal things he's done, even for someone who supports all this stuff. They should at least be able to acknowledge that this is very much not normal. Donald Trump is not a normal president. Part of Shapiro's problem is that...
Ben, that white card is starting to show some wear and tear. Ask Steven Crowder. Please, can we get a BBC Ben Shapiro interview again? Oh, what? You want that Andrew Neil Ben Shapiro interview? Thanks for the 5,500 CLP. I don't know if I'm going to watch that. I'm enjoying watching this video, though. I sometimes worry, like, that I won't have enough to say, but obviously there's a lot to comment on this interview. But you're right. Crowder's fucking hanging out with... Nick Fuentes. It's no wonder. Ben Shapiro is just angry because he can never ever be around Fuentes because obviously, first of all, they have beef, although that doesn't actually seem to be a problem because him and Crowder were on opposite sides of the Groiper War. But for Ben Shapiro, there's just this obvious fact of, first of all, he's Jewish, and second of all, Like the implications of that in terms of, him being a major target for Fuentes. But second of all, it's the fact that he's probably most likely backed by some significant Zionist figures. In fact, someone we're going to talk about later, Mort Klein, who is crazy, by the way. And I apologize because the other day I was like, what is this guy doing? Mort Klein's the guy who was going into the mic. It turns out that he has Tourette's, so I apologize for that. However, he is also one of the biggest degenerate racists imaginable. But there's also an interview of him and Ben Shapiro.
That he never allows blame to fall on the Republicans for anything, at least not in a way that is damning enough that someone would decide
Who is this guy? Who is this guy?
not to vote for them. One great historic example of Ben Shapiro's blind spot, willful or not, is Candace Owens. Although they had a falling out over her opposition to Israel, eventually leading her to...
They were serving together. They look great together. I would love to be in that room with my girl Candace and Benny.
Being fired, it almost certainly had more to do with her anti-Zionism than her well-known anti-Semitism. Owens got her job at the Daily Wire well after she had made her comments about
Jesus Christ, look at fucking Charlie Kirk there. It's just hard to see an image like this.
Hitler's problem was trying to extend his vision outside of Germany.
If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
Anyone...
You know what? That is really, I knew this comment existed, but that is the biggest, saying the quiet part out loud of, ultimately, most Republicans' major issues with, with this person, with Candace Owens, are literally that she turned against Israel. It is down to that. Oh, sorry, wait, that wasn't what I was talking about. I just saw that there's a funny clip that I want to react to. What I'm saying, sorry, is that someone like Candace is just basically saying out loud that the only problem with Hitler is basically the German hyperfixation on that, and that their ideology is not that different from it.
With a grade school understanding of history should be well aware that Hitler's vision was pretty bad for Germans too, particularly if they were Jewish. Owens also defended Kanye West while he was first melting down, and in this case Shapiro joined in, defending him too. And this was well after it had been established that Kanye West had started hanging out with Nick Fuentes. Here's Ben Shapiro on October 7th, 2022.
I care about the fact that there's more black babies being aborted than born in New York City at this point. That 50% of black death in America is abortion. So I really don't care about people's response to that. I perform for an audience of one, and that's God.
Wow, I mean, frankly, it sounds fantastic. Frankly, Kanye sounds much more sane than virtually everybody else in public life.
Shapiro in the October video also made this remark.
The pathologizing of right-wing viewpoints goes back a long way. It goes actually back to a book by Theodore Adorno called The Authoritarian Mind. The suggestion was that there was a pathological drive in capitalist societies that led people to become authoritarian. There's a Marxist view of what America was. And so the idea was that if you were right-wing, you were going to become a fascist.
First, the book is actually called The Authoritarian Personality. I can't say I've read it myself, but it's very funny to me that Ben Shapiro tries to critique its supposed...
A lot of the people I like don't like Adorno.
...claim of conservatives being more prone to becoming fascists by using the example of Kanye West.
Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table.
Isn't her hubby a Legion of St. George kind of person? Girl went to a place that bred plantation owners. Who? What? Candace Owens? I don't know who her husband is. Thanks for the 5,500 as well, by the way. Candace Owens' husband. Who is her husband? Oh my God, George Farmer. He's a British-American entrepreneur and businessman. He looks crazy.
Especially Hitler.
It's very important to state how completely wrong Ben Shapiro was in this instance. In the same video, he's also responding to an interview Tucker Carlson did with Kanye West, which was later revealed to have edited out various racist conspiracy theories that West had mentioned, almost as if Carlson does these interviews.
Why is bro wearing Wellington boots?
To help bigots seem less extreme than they actually are.
I prefer my kids knew Hanukkah and Kwanzaa. At least it will come with some financial engineering.
All of this would, you would think, cause Shapiro to perhaps reflect on the alliances he's made on the right. In the case of
That is a crazy statement.
Candace Owens, he was willing to look the other way because he was willing to accept a little anti-Semitism if it meant he would have her talents at his disposal at the Daily Wire. In the case of Tucker Carlson, he was a major host on Fox News and a useful ally. So there's a clear advantage.
It is really interesting that October the 7th is such a major rift in this kind of way. I spoke about this the other day, but I think it cannot be underestimated how much, this tore apart the Republican base. That, previously, they could tolerate anti-Semitism. And then when there was such a rising tidal wave of condemnation of Israel that some people who were already anti-Semitic globbed onto, it became a problem. It's really interesting. It was a break for so many people. It is utterly ridiculous. Owner of Gab. Guy is a British as fry corn.
To not
Wait, what? This George Farmer. Crazy. I don't know shit about this guy. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Candace Owen is a very, very, very racist character.
turning on someone like that, even though he's clearly running cover for someone who holds some very troubling opinions toward Jewish people. This brings us to a major episode in Ben Shapiro's decline, his response to another interview Tucker Carlson had, this time with Nick Fuentes. Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes was a gentle one. Fuentes, as usual, went on diatribes about the Jewish community.
They have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country.
Although there was some pushback against Fuentes, Carlson seemed more like he was giving him tips on how to appear.
That is literally 100% something that Ben Shapiro would say about any other immigrant community. And that is literally what the guy who he described as a normie president was saying about Ilhan Omar and Somalians. Amazing.
More palatable to a wider audience.
But the problem in your response, I get what you're saying, but the problem in your response is it does not apply to every individual.
No, and I would never say that.
Okay, well, I just think it's important to say that.
There's a presumption in everything Carlson says that he and Nick Fuentes generally agree, but Carlson just wishes Fuentes spoke more delicately about the subject. It both ingratiates Carlson to Fuentes' audience while giving Fuentes mainstream credibility.
Current Fuentes' rise, right, is the biggest challenge to the post-World War II right wing in a very long time, in the sense that, since World War II, there has basically been an accepted thing that if you wish to be in proximity to serious power, you will not be an anti-Semite. You can be as bigoted as you want about anything else, but if you do it when it comes to Jewish people, that is not going to be acceptable. It's not going to be acceptable. That has been the way for a long time in politics. He is upsetting this. It's not good. It's not a positive thing that there's someone with such open veneration of Hitler coming close to proximity to power. But, now? I mean, to be fair, I guess maybe that analysis is also somewhat wrong, because he had no problem with people like Candace when they were fucking extremists.
Oddly enough, in his response to this interview, Ben Shapiro had a similar takeaway.
Probably you came away thinking that, for the most part, Fuentes lives on the radical edge of normality. You think that if you watch the interview, because Tucker Carlson decided that it was important not only to host Fuentes, but to smooth over his views, water them down, and make them far more palatable to a normal audience. As we'll discuss in a bit, this is what Tucker Carlson does for a living.
But Ben Shapiro gets off track a little later when he says this.
Now, since his exit from Fox News in 2023, when, of course, he was a very, very popular host, Tucker Carlson has turned himself into a conspiracist and a crank.
It's also crazy because, there's seemingly a video of it here, but Ben Shapiro told the Jewish News Syndicate in 2022, Ben Gvir's security policies are not so crazy.
Pathological liar.
Shapiro would go on to provide some good example of Carlson's show being a mouthpiece for pro-Russia propaganda and conspiracy theories. But what he gets very wrong is that this didn't start when Tucker Carlson left Fox News. He's been doing this for years. A video I made several years back looked at his programming on the Fox Nation streaming service back when he was still at Fox News, and he frequently had fringe right-wing figures on, like the raw egg nationalist. That was part of a special about how men's health can be improved by drinking raw eggs and shining red light on your balls. This is, of course, just the tip of a very bizarre iceberg. He would talk about everything from alien abductions to the danger of wind turbines. And
I was thinking about this. I think we should just start watching conspiracy theory YouTube videos on here. Nothing wacky, but nothing that goes, bridges into bigotry, but some of the ones that are just Candace Owens ones. Also, Bad Empanada has a video up that I kind of want to watch because it looks really funny. His video, by the way, Requiem for Chomsky, actually seemed really interesting from what I watched. This is the thing. Sometimes he does bangers, and then sometimes he's doing videos that, I'm not so sure I get so much. I saw the one about Calla Walsh, and, I'm not someone who thinks Calla Walsh is crazy, but I've just... And maybe I'm not getting this right, but is Calla Walsh not, very pro the actual Iranian government? Not just, Iranian, Iran's... a challenge to Western imperialism, but Iranian government. Because there's previously a thing where Bad Empanada says it's kind of foolish to support anything that just isn't West as good. But then maybe I'm misreading his appreciation of Walsh and also about Walsh. I don't know enough, like, to be frank, about Calla Walsh. I just see her on Twitter, but I'm not sitting here and saying like she's an evil person. I just feel, and also like, frankly, I guess a lot of that comes from Zionist propagandist accounts.
Nationalist connection doesn't just come from the occasional guest. His top writer at the time, Blake Neff, was forced to resign after he was exposed posting racist and sexist comments online for years. And he
Actually, you know what? Calla Walsh is out here interviewing Shibby, Sean Middleborough, so based. And it looks like he gave a very base statement here. In reality, Israel is merely a proxy state for Western British US imperialism. Therefore, blaming every crime against the Palestinians, for example on Israel, is literally the purpose of a proxy state, to have the crimes look autonomous, when really the blame is largely on Britain and the US, who founded the terror state to destabilize the Middle East and more easily overthrow anti-Western regimes and extract their resources. The only thing that I'm not sure about that analysis is that when Britain found it, and his analysis is completely correct later on, Britain also founded it to ensure control over the Suez, but I guess actually part of that was ensuring that anti-Western regimes wouldn't be, you know, in existence. And there was also like a biblical element, and people like who went there and like just worshipped it and loved it. She's too based for the rest of the world. Maybe she is. I just think, to be fair, I guess like that's the thing that I want to be conscious of. You see so much of the criticism of her coming out of crazy accounts. But I've not watched the video, and I'm not going to watch one of his videos because I know he says he doesn't like that. But you know, and he is bigger than me, definitely. But yeah, I won't watch that. But yeah. I'm not saying that it's like wrong at all. That Biden quote about having to invent Israel, 100%. This is also the take of people like George Habash and many others. And there's also that really famous one that's like, is it by Kanafani or Habash, where they're like, wherever you hurt imperialism, it like, whether that's in the Middle East or in America, it's a good thing. Or, I know that's the quote. Wherever you hurt imperialism, that's a good thing. But I mean, yeah, I'm sure that his coverage is interesting. I mean, as I say, his video on Chomsky was good. And no, Chomsky's not dead, but he may as well be dead. I haven't finished the Chomsky video because one of you put it in the chat and was like, oh, you should watch this. And I did actually enjoy it. God, the Young Turks make some shit. Tucker Carlson, Theo Von, unleash on Israel. Epic. I say this not to give a lecture, but because shattering their omnipotence requires truly identifying the quality of the oppressors, as you put it. They are Western imperialists. Yes, I mean, this is 100% true. Israel is a vassal state of Western imperialism. I remember when I was, like, talking about that on TikTok, and this person was like, you actually think that, like, all Jewish people control the world? And I was like, I am literally saying the opposite, but you are far too dense to even have a basic grasp of what I'm trying to say. Chomsky is ancient, yeah. Chomsky is a really ancient individual. Also, I'm stuck on fucking... Oh, hold on, I need to refresh my YouTube. I'm stuck on something. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm just an idiot.
bragged about smuggling some of that into Tucker Carlson's scripts. And it's very well documented that white nationalists often tuned into Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox News, taking notes on how to more effectively phrase their own beliefs, because he was so good at streamlining them into mainstream conversations. Tucker Carlson has been swimming in these waters for a long time. Oh, just a side note, if you're wondering what happened to that head writer, Blake Neff, after he was forced to resign from Tucker Carlson's show, he got a job at Turning Points USA. Just thought I should mention that. When Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News in 2023, Ben Shapiro's pal and former Daily Wire CEO, Jeremy Boring, made a comment about how they'd love to hire him. Ben Shapiro at the time had expressed disagreements with Carlson over foreign policy, but did describe him like this.
Whatever Tucker is, he's certainly a compelling presence. And he does, when it comes to social issues particularly, have an extraordinary amount of moral clarity.
And he criticized the media's commentary on Carlson.
The Times did an investigation into how Tucker Carlson stoked white fear to conquer cable. This, of course, is their routine.
The problem with the proxy analogy is that the proxy has enjoyed autonomy, and now, like elsewhere, the zealots run the asylum in Israel. To a certain extent, yes. But I think that that's a bad thing for America, in the sense of, for America, right, you would rather have a proxy that is there, but... a proxy that is there that is helping to create the world that you want. Like, it's Israel's contentions with fucking Syria right now are terrible for the US government because they are almost totally nonsensical. Like, Al-Shara has no interest in fighting against Israel. His demand isn't even the Golan Heights. It's that Israel withdraws to the pre-December 8th borders, I think, or whatever it is last year. Anyway, that Israel withdraws, but Israel's logic is based on, no, there might be another coup, but the biggest challenge to the authority of al-Shara is probably like, well, no, he's not got full control of the country. But I see what you mean. Like, I do think that it is like it is part of the nexus of Western imperialism in the Middle East, 100%. And that's what Israel is. I don't think it's like some unique aberration. And I was talking about this as well. I think it's part of the reason that like Tucker Carlson or someone is gaining so much popularity and why their rhetoric is so dangerous, because it's it's a much simpler solution and a much simpler explanation for something that shakes to the core, like people's understanding of the West, right? It is so much easier to go, no, Israel is puppeteering us and making us do bad things, and tap into the history of, you know, those kind of claims around Jewish people that have existed throughout our history, rather than to actually move forward and say, this is a major problem of Western imperialism. Like, I was shocked reading that quote of Balfour that I'd never heard it, and the disagreement in the League of Nations on the basis of not being able to agree to the basic premise that there was just all human beings were created equal.
Is that anybody they don't like is a white supremacist?
This really captures the bind Shapiro finds himself in. His criticisms of Carlson in the present are solid, but he's also pretending that this is somehow new, when the truth is, it's not that Carlson has changed, it's just a lot of this is starting to hit Ben Shapiro more directly. And it's that interview with Nick Fuentes that really seems to have brought things to a head. For those
What the fuck? Sorry, what the fuck is Tucker Carlson drinking there? Why is he just drinking sludge? Can you see this? No, you can't see it. Tucker Carlson is literally just drinking sludge. Also, look at that. Straight-backed, slouched, drinking sludge.
to a head. For those who don't know, Nick Fuentes has hated Ben Shapiro for many years, in part because of Shapiro being Jewish, but also because he sees Shapiro as someone who undermined his career. In his interview with Tucker Carlson, Fuentes described how Shapiro was initially an inspiration for him.
We do this debate about Trump versus Hillary. And so I'm there and I'm pro-Trump and I say, you know, I think Trump's going to win. And I'm straight up like ripping the Ben Shapiro talking points.
This admiration didn't last as, according to Fuentes, Shapiro publicly called him out over some of his takes regarding Israel. If Nick Fuentes said the sky was blue, I'd stick my head out the window to double check. So it's important not to take it on faith that he's being honest in any of this. But what is easily verifiable is that he has been talking shit about Ben Shapiro for many years now, including one.
People are fed up with dual allegiance, Israel first deceivers like Ben Shapiro. This is what I mean. This is so much of a simpler of an explanation that does not require you to actually think about what Israel, what America are like. I'm sorry, it's so much easier to do this and just be like, yeah, you've all been deceived, America's not bad, you don't need to listen to the leftists, rather than actually confront the issue, you know? And it's not surprising that this stuff is selling, because people are unsure why they're watching Trump, you know, the war-ending president, just be like, more bombs to Israel.
Very messed up incident where he confronted Shapiro in public while he was out with his family.
I didn't even see the whites are under attack part. Insanity.
Fuentes and Shapiro insist none of this is personal. It's hard not to notice that Ben Shapiro had for years avoided.
I mean, it's also just a weird hypocritical thing. Like, I talk about this with GB News and all these other places who are regularly talking about like how every other minority and like protected category in the world are liars who steal, who deserve to be mocked. But when it comes to anyone who insults Israel, no, that is not allowed. That you cannot do. We haven't had the emergence of this kind of stuff in the UK because the guy trying to be Nick Fuentes is this guy called Hugh Anthony, who is just like really boring and is also a clone and is also weird and also has these, he's the guy who had the video of his dad shouting at him. But yeah, like, he's the only one who's like kind of split from the mainstream British love Israel online influencer culture. But I don't think that, I think he'll have a broad appeal, and this is a real question for these right-wingers. Like, I mean, you know, what are they gonna do? Like, what are they gonna do? And I don't think that this is a question going away. And also, by the way, one of the interesting things is, ages ago, It is utterly ridiculous. I listen to the Dig sometimes, and there's a great episode. I think it's on Doppelganger by Naomi Klein, and she's talking about this, and they're talking about Steve Bannon and stuff. Apparently, all of these people spend a huge amount of time watching the left and like watching what we put out into the world. You should be watching the shit that is put out into the world by these people. I mean, I'm not saying I'm watching Nikki Fuentes on stream, but knowing what's going on amongst them, what's splitting them, what's causing issues, this is important stuff to think about, to be bearing in mind. Shapiro voted for Jaguars eating his face party. Is now mind blown. Yeah. Thanks, Lemon Mint Cat, for the $2. 4269. Lemon Mint Cat 4269. But yeah. I mean, it's 100% true. Like, I'm sorry, you cultivated white nationalist racists, and now you're upset that there's blowback?
Calling out Tucker Carlson this aggressively, and now he's saying stuff like this.
Tucker Carlson, for example, would never say out loud what Nick Fuentes does. He wouldn't say the things many of his guests say. And so instead, he acts as an ideological launderer. He takes other people's hideous ideas, he softens them, he treats them with love and care, and then he provides them with a massive signal boost. He isn't merely talking to people in good faith, of course. He's promoting certain people and ideas and attacking others.
And Shapiro goes so far as to point out how even Nick Fuentes can see how Tucker Carlson is a fraud.
After years of bragging about being an elite, bragging about being so out of touch and so rich, now he's going to be the spokesperson for all the white people. Now he's going to roll up his sleeves. I just like to hunt and fish in my log cabin. I care about Klarna and credit card debt.
And now Ben Shapiro is very much on board with the idea that Tucker Carlson is spreading the same ideology as Nick Fuentes, which is especially ironic considering just a few years ago, he put out a video titled, "Tucker Carlson is not Nick Fuentes," where he defends Carlson when his rhetoric was compared to Fuentes's.
This is a godless country. I hate it.
You're right. They're godless. That is exactly right. I never talk like that. But it's
Pause it
true.
right there. Okay, so again, this idea that if you say that God has gone absent from the public square, that you're in league with Nick Fuentes. No, Nick Fuentes literally says that he wants a Catholic dictatorship in the United States. That is not the same thing as what Tucker Carlson is saying. This is the stupidest game.
It's incredible that not even 3 years later, Ben Shapiro is going after Tucker Carlson for being aligned with Nick Fuentes when he was criticizing The Daily Show for noticing patterns in their rhetoric.
Wait. Also, I feel like a point worth making here is that there is basically like overtures and especially moves towards a genuinely Catholic dictatorship in the United States by Trump and by JD Vance.
To highlight another part of the Carlson interview of Fuentes that might explain the phenomena going on here.
When you get attacked, when people call you names, like they always call me racist, and I would always think to myself, I'm actually not. Maybe the point is to make me racist. Where you just get to a point where you're like, well, if you're going to slander me, then I'll just become the thing you're calling me. I do think that's a feature of human nature, don't you?
Mm-hmm. This is, of course, a deeply silly thing to say. It's basically recreating that webcomic of someone who said they had no choice to become a Nazi because someone made a comment about Trump support.
Jesus Christ. Also, sorry, I just to detract a tiny bit. You know, we've had like, we had this whole thing in the UK about how, the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans had to come. Look what they're up to. This is what you get when you allow Maccabi Tel Aviv fans in your city. Today in Stuttgart, Germany, Maccabi Tel Aviv fans light up smoke bombs while singing their infamous song titled The Rape Song. Oh, I'm cooking up a tweet. What should I put? Is this the Israeli entry for entry for Eurovision? No, is this Israel's new Eurovision song? I'm laughing. They're all the same person, whiny voices included. Yeah, I mean, they have some differences, like Ben Shapiro's basic differences. I support Israel, but he's still, and I have to support Israel no matter what. But he's also just a racist extremist.
Supporters being racist. Ben Shapiro said as much when Megyn Kelly asked him about it.
I'm a little tired of the excuse that if you are called something enough, that justifies all of the subsequent activity. I've been called every goddamn name in the book. Every name in the book. And I have not, but I have not shifted my positions because people call me names. That is a childish thing to do.
He's absolutely right here, and one thing I noticed that every time I agreed with Ben Shapiro on something, it's when he was saying things people on the left have been saying for years, which honestly speaks to how effective we are at criticizing the right, whether they acknowledge it or not. Tucker Carlson plays the same game. Recently, Ben Shapiro made some comments about retirement that went viral.
No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem.
Tucker Carlson responded to that.
What the hell? By the way, also such a violation of the capitalist system. Like, you cannot sell that notion. And the reason the reason you could never sell that notion is because the whole satisfaction of capitalism is work as hard as you can until you get to the point where you can just enjoy the inordinate amounts of wealth you raise.
Sounding a lot like someone on the left.
Why does it look like I'm wearing a red dress? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Poorer people, working class people, blue collar people are aching. They have trouble walking.
Oh, wait. I know what you're talking about.
Their backs hurt. So retirement for a man who climbs ladders is a little bit different from a man who hosts a podcast.
Carlson even brought up the impact of systemic failures.
We are subject to forces that we can't control. It's just a fact. I didn't write the tax code, for example. I don't have any control over the hiring standards at various companies or the admission standards at various schools. Those are systemic problems. It's just a fact.
This is another one of Carlson's well-worn strategies to make a systemic critique, while his solution typically involves demonizing immigrants and other vulnerable groups. It's something he's done time and time again, and honestly, only a sucker would fall for this sort of scam, and he's been pulling it for years. What's even more ridiculous about Tucker Carlson's criticism of Ben Shapiro's rhetoric around retirement is that none of this is new. Shapiro was saying this at least a year and a half ago. It's hard to imagine these guys have only recently noticed these things about one another and were either too cowardly to mention them before or perhaps saw a more professional advantage in staying quiet.
They're all so stupid as well because they just have no philosophical consideration of why you might say something. I'm sorry, I'm no expert in terms of philosophy. And by the time I'm the age of these people, I would hope that I'm a far better commentator. I mean, fuck knows how old Tucker Carlson is. But, I mean, Ben Shapiro is about 40. But, just not having that basic conception of, hey, that's, kind of the whole satisfactory thing of capitalism. Think about the concept of the lottery. The lottery is an investment that, one day you'll just win this thing and then you'll get to have, this amazing future where you have inordinate amounts of wealth and then you'll just be happy. Well, in fact, bringing up the lottery was stupid there. Retirement is such an important thing of capitalism. The entire world and system under which we live is premised on the idea that if you accumulate enough things and enough money, everything will just be awesome and fine. Chris, start a book club. The thing is I read so many articles at this point, that quite often I'm too tired to read at the end of the day. But also I've been powering through, and I've been reading I'm basically at the end of the deluge now, but I've been powering through that for way too long. Because I end up reading, I'll read through Parapraxis and, a load of other places. And then I've been reading the LRB as well, London Review of Books. But I also think that I was talking to Isaac, one of the things that we may paywall with the channel is a list, watching something you talked about can't get you out of my head, and forcing Isaac to watch that might be a fun thing, and then we discuss it. But also I really want to do the thing where we talk about films. I've been watching a lot of films. Whenever my girlfriend's here, I go through a film watching phase, and I've been watching a ton of things.
Speaks to what
Oh my god, no. Actually, I'll start a book club and we can all read right-wing idiot books. Douglas Murray, we can all read Douglas Murray's new book. On democracies and death cults, we can all sit and read together. I think that's what we all need to do. And yeah, Ben Shapiro's book. Oh, I love this shit.
Opportunists.
No, we're not going to react to the Kylie Minogue song, Can't Get You Out of My Head, although that would be pleasurable. It's a documentary by Adam Curtis, which surprisingly has been up on YouTube for years, but I don't know how it got there. Wouldn't recommend that. Goes against the BBC. I love the BBC. I love the Keir Starmer regime. Glory to a glorious dictator Keir. Ridiculous. Like in Chile, you have to deal with privatized pensions that siphon your retirement funds. Yeah, I mean, also, the fact of... Did any of you see that story the other day about, the guy whose, entire pension was just taken away from him by General Electric, and then he was working? It was, quite a moving video, this old guy who's I lost my wife, I lost all my money, but then he gets, the millions of dollars, and that's great, but it's God, how many people are going through that situation or end up dying in a situation that's even worse than that?
They are. And I want to go back to that video from October where Ben Shapiro was complaining about woke politics infecting the far right.
The Democratic Party has been playing with these forces for so long, it's now too late for them to dissociate from those forces.
One of the big complaints...
Oh, another thing, because I thought about this. One of the interesting things that I'd spoken about is you guys wanted... I've heard from a couple of you that you want a resource list, which isn't obviously going to be a big thing with having Noah on this week. We're not going to be talking about as many resources, but we'll put them in the description. And then also... I was also thinking we could just publish our research notes with like page numbers and stuff if anyone was interested.
He has about figures like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes is that they push anti-Semitism. But back in 2011, Ben Shapiro tweeted this: "The Jewish people has always been plagued by bad Jews who undermine it from within. In America, those bad Jews..."
Jesus Christ. You also forget like how just like deranged this is. Also, thank you for the 5,500, by the way. I'm just going to set a live goal if anyone's interested in donating. I've already got 2 things to do. I'm just going to put live goal. The 2 things I'm going to do is another Dark Souls 3 stream. When that is, I don't know. Because I'm going away this weekend for a couple of days, but I'm back for Monday, so don't worry about that. But, yeah, what was I going to say? I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, I will do the Dark Souls stream and a Q&A.
...is largely vote Democrat. In his book, Primetime Propaganda, the true Hollywood story of how the left took over your TV, he described how liberal
Oh, Jesus Christ, I really want to read that.
Jewish people had taken over Hollywood to advance a left-wing agenda. He's also run cover for the Great Replacement theory, trying to detach it from its anti-Semitic origins into a more pliable concern over how demographics impact voting.
The only thing I will say about that is I read this guy's piece. The Great Replacement theory did not begin always as an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. Do I celebrate Christmas? Yes. The Great Replacement theory is anti-Semitic when you do it with basically like how you say that like Jewish people are doing it. Like talking about like the fact of like the birth rates amongst like white populations in a lot of societies like the UK and stuff has declined massively. It's just whether you're like majorly concerned about that. And, like, I personally, I like, what is the concern? Like, how do you think that that's going to be addressed without, like, majorly brutal things? And I don't think that there's anything that's that specific about your skin color, your race, your ethnicity that has any meaning. Like, I think we're all ultimately just human beings. And, like, sure, it's good to preserve, like, things that are meaningful to you and positive about your culture. But I don't think that we should sit here and just, like, draw these major distinctions between all of ourselves.
There's something...
Yeah, sorry, I celebrate the festive holidays in Keir Starmer's woke Britain. I've never heard of Kropotkin.
Very unsettling about how Ben Shapiro was perfectly happy to point the finger at bad Jews, but somehow thinks it's the left that's convincing parts of the right that there's some kind of Jewish problem. He seemed unaware of the fact that there are actually some pretty powerful anti-Semitic forces on the right that have been there for a very long time, and maybe the reason they liked him is because they found him kind of useful. It's a bit of a tired point, but it hasn't stopped being true. Ben Shapiro is being devoured by the monsters he helped protect, and I suspect it's happening more aggressively than people might expect. While looking at some of Ben Shapiro's recent videos, I couldn't help notice the metrics seemed a bit off. For example, his long-form videos do very well, but his clips have dreadful numbers in comparison, something that historically hasn't been true for his channel. If we look on Social Blade, we can see a large drop-off in
Do you think people are botting these views?
Viewership over the past year. So at first glance, it seems as though his current audience, what remains of it anyway, has a very different viewing habit than his old audience. I wanted to look closer at what might be happening, so I decided to graph out what was publicly available with some comparisons. In this first series of graphs, I'm counting views in 100s to compare them with the total number of comments. The reason I'm counting views like this is because it makes the graph read a little better visually, and since I'm doing it for each graph, the presentation of data is consistent. Looking at Ben Shapiro's long-form videos, there is a big disparity between the number of comments and the number of views, especially when we compare the number of comments to his short-form videos, where they track much more closely. If we compare him to other channels, in this case I chose Candace Owens and Matt Walsh, we can see that Shapiro's long-form videos are getting much less engagement. And if we go back in time to January of 2025, Shapiro's long-form videos are a bit closer. There is still a gap, though not quite as big. If we calculate the odds of whether or not a view will lead to someone leaving a comment, we can see Ben's long-form videos are far less likely to have its viewers leave a comment under them, clocking in at less than 0.3% of viewers leaving comments, slightly more than half of what his videos used to get, and far behind Matt Walsh and Candace Owens, who get 3 and 5 times as many respectively. And keep in mind that of all of these channels, Ben Shapiro is the only one who doesn't do a premiere for his longer videos, where the earliest viewers are sounding off in the chat rather
They celebrated Christmas in Bethlehem, though, this year, for the first time.
Than leaving comments under the video. In fact, Ben Shapiro used to do premieres, which might explain why his older long-form videos had so few comments. We can see this pattern repeat itself when it comes to the number of likes left on videos. With all the other types of videos I looked at, the number of likes were significantly worse. Viewers are 3, 4, and even 5 times less likely to click on that like button for Ben Shapiro's long videos than viewers of his long-form videos back in January.
Hey guys, I need you to smash the damn like button on my hate for Tucker Carlson being racist.
Or videos from Candace Owens and Matt Walsh. What all of these numbers amount to is, in my mind, 2 likely conclusions. Ben Shapiro's long-form videos are being heavily inflated by people who are only showing up to hit the dislike button or nothing at all. And if they're leaving comments, those comments are being deleted. The alternative is that someone is bodying his long-form videos, giving it inflated view numbers and very anemic engagement. Whichever of those 2 conclusions is more accurate, it doesn't look like a healthy channel at all. I should mention that in my calculations, I did omit one video from Ben Shapiro's channel, the November 3rd one, titled Tucker Carlson Sabotages America. That one actually has metrics that reflect something that has nearly 1 million views. And it's also the one that has the most negative comments towards him. It seems like Ben Shapiro's only means of getting big numbers of engaged viewers these days is by being a lightning rod for hate. While we're talking about data though, I also wanted to share some info I came across from Open Measures that attempted to gauge Nick Fuentes' growing profile and how it doesn't quite match the narrative around his ascent. Although Fuentes saw a massive spike in social media chatter about him after Charlie Kirk's murder, that growth has largely gone down. The Tucker Carlson interview didn't move the needle in nearly the same way. Most of the time Fuentes gets hyped up, people cite his Rumble stats, but it's something of an open secret at this point that Rumble's numbers are almost certainly bogus. My own
Isn't this the same with Kick? Because, like, apparently, like, Ed Matthews, who's like a British Kick content creator, would be like one of the biggest streamers in the world off his Kick numbers, but you don't actually see that many people who know him outside of TikTok, and being known on TikTok is not actually that difficult. It is utterly ridiculous. Is me abusing ABH brow dip into what's ABH brow dip? But yeah, thank you for that. Low views because woke.
A while back found they were inflating their live stream view count.
Thanks for the $2, by the way, Silent Scythe.
And I would be shocked if that was the only metric that was being fudged over there. I say all of this to remind everyone that these figures we're talking about today are incredibly niche. For fun, let's go to Ben Shapiro for that.
Every big audience in the media, you're talking about 3, 4 million people. The electorate in the United States is generally about 160 million people. I think one of the mistakes politicians make...
God, these people are, you know what, these people are just as bad as fucking Ben Shapiro.
Look at X and they say, this is representative of the American body politic. And that is just too online. It's just way too online.
He could be talking about Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, or even himself. But their importance, specifically to conservative politics, I think reflects how terminally online...
But also, wait, one thing I would think about that is that, what about, like, kind of the metrics on Twitter and stuff?
Politics has become now, further getting detached from real people and instead being obsessed with these internet celebrities as if they've somehow permeated the mainstream when really they are big names within a small conservative online media space. At some point, Donald Trump is going to retire from public life, likely due to failing health. And right now, his cult of personality is the one thing uniting a lot of disparate parts of the...
That's also, by the way, like, I don't think I'd invest that much in the notion of the cult of personality. I think what's really interesting about Donald Trump is also, like, well, no, I guess it is a factor within his cult of personality, but it's not like he's had to manufacture one. His voice, the way he speaks, I mean, the rants he's been going on have been getting more and more racist. There's no way he wasn't a racist already, but the reason they're getting more racist is they try and bring the base back together. And I guess actually cult of personality is an apt term, but I think it's just so interesting, like his voice, his aura, his presence, and all of this stuff factors so much into that. And JD Vance is there like, what about the 6'7" meme? Guys, what about the 6'7" meme? I'm a hillbilly. Does he like Asmongold, by the way?
Right wing. This is something Ben Shapiro is well aware of.
Yeah, this is what. Also, do you not think that a tweet like this just looks inflated to fuck? The fact that this has 11 million views. Yesterday at church, the Bible reading started on page 66 to 67 of the Missal. And my 5-year-old went absolutely nuts, repeating 6'7" like 10 times. And now I think we need to make this narrow exception to the First Amendment and ban these numbers forever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it just feels weird. Like, this is not that funny a tweet. Also, I fucking hate this with all of this stuff here. Just like these blue tickers not saying anything funny.
I think that there are a lot of people who are planning for the post-Trump era, and they're trying to make moves right now in order to sort of consolidate their viewpoints in the post-Trump era.
Ben Shapiro represents the old guard of traditional conservatives, the former far right, before they are outflanked by an even more extreme America First movement, often associated with Shapiro's rivals, including Nick Fuentes and, to an extent, Tucker Carlson. It's not a coincidence that Carlson suggests...
A big part of me wonders how much, like, the inflated stuff as well in the UK is going on right now with, you know, the, like Farage and Rupert Lowe, all on the internet, boosted specifically by a platform made for them.
That Fuentes has already won this fight.
And Ben Shapiro seems irrelevant to me now.
Now, but back then, for the
I
young,
guess that's
he was
true.
huge. Mm-hmm.
So maybe you won.
Oh, certainly.
The truth is probably more complicated, especially since it's hard to get trustworthy numbers for all of this. But for a political party that seems to be terminally online, it's not surprising that popular sentiment on the internet can be used to fuel a movement. It remains to be seen if it can actually translate to electoral success, though.
Also, holy shit, apparently TMZ, not the most accurate outlet, has said Tim Pool's claim of shots fired at his house can't be substantiated. Don't know if true. This is an alleged comment from an organization. A hillbilly elegy. Oh, fuck.
One of the keys to Ben Shapiro's success online is that he's been able to avoid or build alliances with people who clearly don't like him. Alliances that would never work long term, but I suspect he thought he could get ahead of. As public opinion has shifted rapidly against Israel, it's become increasingly difficult for someone like Shapiro to continue his vocal support for the country. Many on the right have used this opportunity to smuggle their anti-Semitism into the broader criticism against Israel, but Shapiro can't make that move. Back in 2024, Ben Shapiro and his father, a Hollywood composer, produced a musical in Israel that paired the October 7th attack with the Warsaw Uprising. It was called We Will Rise. Speaking to the Jerusalem Post, he said, "The ending is the most powerful part for me. The characters from the Warsaw Ghetto sing 'We Will Rise' as they move through the fog, but now they're joined by the Israeli soldiers who realize that their fight is the same, the fight to protect the Jewish."
There were Zionists, by the way, amongst the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, but there were also a multitude of different people who were not involved in Zionism. There were Bundists and such.
People is timeless. Putting aside the grotesque pairing of the genuinely heroic uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto with the soldiers committing a genocide, what we see is that this is something Ben Shapiro genuinely believes in. He's a man who has a real passion for at least some of what he talks about, and I think that might ultimately be his downfall. While he was willing to make cheesy YouTube videos for clicks or endorse politicians he has serious misgivings about, there are some lines he won't cross when it comes to some of his values. In this case, it means defending a country committing a genocide, which is tragic in its own right. But in the world of conservative media, not being able to sell out your supposed values makes you vulnerable. Going back to the New York Times article, it's hard to imagine Ben Shapiro pivoting to be on the friendly side of the increasingly extreme right-wing base the way he had 8 years ago. Mostly because he didn't really have to give anything up. He just had to pretend he liked Donald Trump. And Ben Shapiro was certainly tolerated and even celebrated because he was useful for attacking the left. But attacking the left while ignoring the far right only works when the far right isn't breathing down your neck in public awareness and pulling ahead in view counts. While I think Ben Shapiro's profile has been dragged down, I doubt he'll be completely finished forever. Careers in media can slump along if someone has a devoted enough base, and Shapiro still has some kind of audience keeping him afloat. A couple of
Who do you think is like regularly watching Ben Shapiro?
years from now, it'll be interesting to see if he's found life in a new lane of political relevance, or if the times will pass him by and he'll end up forgotten, like pundits of the past, such as Bill O'Reilly. In the meantime, we can enjoy insightful interviews from Tucker Carlson, where he asks tough questions like this.
What is porn exactly? Like, describe how available is porn? What is it?
One of the real challenges in making this video was getting incredibly sick while I was working on it, so I hope my voice didn't sound too froggy during that one.
This video was great. If anyone wants to watch it, it's from Jose. I really enjoyed that. I hope you guys liked watching me react to like a video where like I thought that was good, and I guess this is a thing about streaming that most people do. They just react to shit. The link is there. By the way, this whole time I have been enamored by the thought of watching this video that has just popped up on my feed.
When we do that, you must know what we...
This is Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, someone accused of genocide by Trump.
That against America. It will never like that. But are we going to retreat because America doesn't want us to do that? Never. Even if America decides that I should no longer enter America, it's okay, I will enter Zimbabwe. I'll enter Botswana, I'll enter Nigeria, I'll enter Africa, my home. Why should I be concerned about people who are going to feed me beggars and make me fat when I can go to Nigeria and eat jollof?
Oh, what a banger. What a banger. By the way, the EFF are like, they basically revolve around dealing with a hangover of apartheid. It's like objectively a good thing, right? Like, there have not been, unless there have been major changes in recent years, which I don't think there have been, they basically take over land and take it off like white landowners, normally unoccupied land, and the level of violence is next to zero. It's objectively like a good thing. But yeah, very based. dealing with the burger lovers, telling them how it is. That's what they want to do to you. They want to feed burgers and make you fat. And you can go Nigeria and eat jollof.
Nice, nom nom. Nice food. So why must I fight for beggars instead of jollof? When we're in Nigeria, DSG was there. We're given a nice jollof rice and what is that goat soup? Pepper soup by the governor of that state, Enugu State. Ah, la la.
I like this guy a lot.
Hey, my guy, we're sweating, but we're not stopping. Sweating, but not stopping. That's how nice Africa is. So you want to threaten me that you won't give me a visa to America or give me a visa to London? I don't care.
No, bro. You got to come London. We got jollof. We got jollof in London. Don't worry. That is a banger. That is one of the best videos I've seen in a while. Awesome work. God, also, Tucker Carlson is like hugely growing his base. Right. Let's do the first news story that I wanted to talk about today. We're almost 2 hours in. But we're going to talk about Randy Fine, everyone's favorite politician. You know, the pro-Israel senator, brilliant guy, always up to great stuff. No one doesn't like him. So the video that I wanted to talk about is this video. Now, they had a hearing on the Judea and Samaria bill, the House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing, Understanding Judea and Samaria, and they invited pro-Israel billionaire Mort Klein. Now, Mort Klein barely speaks in this. He is difficult to listen to, but he has Tourette's, and, that's why he sounds crazy, basically. Or sounds wild. Sorry, that probably sounds offensive. That's what the problem is. So that's what the unusual sounds. I also find it hard to give decorum to someone who is literally but what I should premise this by saying is, here is a comment from him. There is no occupation in Judea and Samaria. Where is your condemnation of the evil murders by your filthy Arab Islamist despicable brethren? The Nazis would be proud of the evil actions of the murderous Arabs, murdering innocent Jews and Americans. You make the world worse. That was him talking to Electronic Intifada. So, yeah.
Back. Thank you, Representative Kane. I now recognize Representative Fine for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for letting me wave on today for this important subject. I'd like to perhaps give my perspective on all of this, because I think it's important, and maybe I'll have a couple questions. In 1948, 2 states were created as the British left that part of the world. There was an Arab state in Jordan, and there was a Jewish state in Israel. But the Arabs could not be content with those 2 states. They decided they wanted to have one. And a war broke out, a war that has gone and starts and stops ever since. Now, rather than call themselves Jordanians, they invented a new name, the name of Palestinians, to try to imply a 3rd state should be created.
Palestinians never wanted to be part of Jordan. And by the way, just on the topic of this rhetoric, Palestinians had every right to refuse a foreign power, an imperial power, setting up a settler colony in their land. No, they weren't monstrous or barbarous for refusing that. It is such a reasonable position to refuse that.
And in 1967, that war that started in 1948 continued, and Israel won territory back from the Jordanians. Now, in the United States, when we fought wars and we have won territory, we generally keep it. And that's typically the way the world works. But somehow when it comes to Israel and it comes to the Jews, when they win a war that they don't start, somehow it is they are supposed to give back the land that they have thus won. But nonetheless, Israel has gone along with this fiction and tried to create not a 2nd state, but a 3rd state. It was tried in 2005 in Gaza, when not only did Israel make Gaza Judenrein, they not only removed every living Jew.
Why did you use the Nazi term?
From Gaza, they dug up dead Jews to take them away. And they said, here you go, Gaza, enjoy your border with Egypt, enjoy your access to the ocean, go live long, prosper, turn yourself into a Dubai or a UAE. And we saw how that worked out.
By the way, also, it is crazy that, like, even a liberal Zionist, someone who's allegedly against the illegal occupation, like Lonerbox, did kind of repeat pretty similar rhetoric, that there could have been this amazing thing in Gaza, when, like, it's objectively true that that could not have happened.
Pipes, instead of being used to make water, were turned into rockets, concrete.
Sorry, 1 second. Chris, have you seen Ilan Pappé speak about the split in Israel between secular Israel versus religious Judea? Yeah, he calls it the state of Tel Aviv and the state of Judea. I haven't just seen Ilan speak about that. I spoke about Ilan with that. I wrote an essay for Ilan last year that I don't have access to. I wish I could show it to you. But, I spoke to him about it a lot. And yeah, when anyone mentions Dubai, the UAE, like, you know, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, like, the reason that the UAE is the way it is, and Saudi Arabia are the way that they are, is because they've always had a different relationship with imperial power that Palestine has had.
Instead of being used to create schools, were turned into tunnels. So despite the fact there effectively was a third state, the state of Gaza, we saw how that turned out.
Also, Israel stockpiles the most advanced weapons in the world instead of moving towards, you know, actually building peace. So are you surprised that Hamas dug tunnels? And Abdul Razak Takriti is the source, by the way, of saying that the first tunnels were made for smuggling in goods.
And so now we're faced with what do we do in Judea and Samaria? A place I would note in Judea was the first capital of Israel, in Shiloh. When Moses didn't make it across, when everybody else made it across, that's where they ended up. And again, in Hebron, where the most important people in the Jewish faith are buried. This is where the Jewish people come from. But somehow, what do we do with this area now? And so I think about the segregation that I saw the first time I went to Judea and Samaria, and I'd like to read you from a sign. We hear about the apartheid state of Israel, and it is partly true. There is apartheid in Israel. I want to tell you, as I was driving through,
just such low-level hasbara from an elected official, you know.
Judea and Samaria, a sign that I saw, I can't find it real quick, but it basically said, in this area, Jews may not enter.
Israel put up those signs, and Jewish people 100% can enter these areas.
This is a part of the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, whatever you want to call it. And the sign literally says, in English, in Hebrew, and in Arabic, Jews may not go here. I'm not aware of anywhere that is controlled by Israel where they say Arabs cannot go.
There are a multitude of different areas where that is. There are a multitude of different areas where that exists, where that kind of thing exists. There's literally a video of Louis Theroux with a Palestinian, Issa Amro, where he cannot go into that area.
Where they say Christians cannot go. So my question, I guess, to you, Mr. Klein, is when you are dealing with a group of people who continually call for the destruction of the state of Israel, who are okay with signs that say Jews may not enter these areas, we want to be free of Jews, how do you make peace with that? How do you create a long-term solution with that? Or is there another way that we have to go?
Of course, the reason Jews are not permitted to go there is because there's a huge likelihood that they'll be murdered by Arabs who live there.
By the way, also, hold on. Ethan and Gila Klein said this, like, not even that long ago. It's not that long ago that Ethan said the exact same thing about Ramallah.
Arabs can walk anywhere they want. There's no problem, no danger. I'll say something that really the president of Egypt first said, al-Sisi. He said there needs to be a reformation of Islam. A reformation of Islam which accepts Israel as a Jewish state, which no longer promotes violence and terrorism, which so many of the imams promote, and nobody wants to talk about. They're afraid of being called Islamophobic.
By the way, citing Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, a brutal, murderous dictator, is amazing. But from an American, doesn't surprise me.
I'm not afraid of that.
And there has to be as President Trump demanded, a reformation of the Palestinian Authority. And we should be demanding
He does genuinely have Tourette's. That's why he's making that noise. He's a horrible guy, but I'm not going to mock him on the topic of Tourette's. I didn't realize that the first time I saw him. He's awful. Like this, by the way, also, this guy is like a fan of Ben Gvir and Otzma Yehudit.
now, not say now. I hear rumors that they're going to wait 2 years for them to disarm. They have to disarm right now, Hamas. They have to know they're going to get nothing unless they start transforming their ways. So,
Thank you.
There has to be a reformation, really, of Islam.
And as my time comes to an end, I would simply say this. I don't know how you make peace with those who seek your destruction. I think you destroy them first. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Like, the fact that someone is allowed to say this in US Congress, like a sitting congressman, is why I think that we have to be so much more concerned with Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian racism, and Orientalism than anything else. Like, this is an elected official talking about how you should destroy Palestinians. And he's the one with the quote about, like, Gaza flowing with blood.
And I yield back.
God, imagine having to listen, imagine having to be around that, like, ooh, imagine having to put up with these two. But this isn't really where I wanted to end, because, okay, that clip on its own is crazy, but now let's have some Randy Fine on Piers Morgan. Let's have a look at what he had to say.
Just hold fire, panel, for a moment. I want to bring in now a Florida congressman, Randy Fine. Randy Fine, welcome to Uncensored. What is your view?
God, he looks repugnant there.
Mamdani, I think you want him deported, is that right?
I do. Look, I think Mamdani lied in his naturalization application. He did not share he was a member of DSA. He did not share his affiliation and his love for the 5 Muslim terrorists. And I think that was dishonest, and I don't think he should be a citizen. I think that needs to be investigated, as we need to do for many people who've come in over the last 30 years. One of the most fascinating things about this election in New York is Mamdani is losing overwhelmingly among those who were born in the United States. His only chance of becoming mayor is because of those who grew up with values other than being American. And I think that's something that should alarm everyone.
But the way you phrase that, you know, if I can pick you up...
The way you phrase that is not very nice. Nick Fuentes is a really evil racist, but Randy Fine is, Randy Fine, I'm going to give you this softball interview.
On that. You know, what do you mean? I mean, you have to be born in America to be an American? Is that your position?
No, but by the way, there's a reason the framers of our Constitution said that to be president of the United States, you had to be born here. There is something about growing up here, going through your childhood, being inculcated with American values, becoming part of that melting pot that made America great. When my family came here over 100 years ago, they came here because they loved America, not because they wanted to change it. They wanted to become part of the American social fabric. But what you see...
But in the context of Israel, you like it when settlers arrive in another place and actually do that. By the way, also the fabric of America, you went to a land and altered it. You didn't go to join the existing polity. You went to destroy the indigenous people.
See in New York is people who have come here not to become part of America, but to change America. And that is, there's nothing wrong with America, and there's nothing that fundamentally needs to be changed. This is the greatest country in the history of the world, and we have too many people coming here who do not believe that, starting with Mamdani himself.
You said yesterday that Cenk Uygur, one of our panelists today, is an invader. What did you mean by that?
I think it's a great example. I actually talked in that post about Mamdani. I talked about Ilhan Omar. I talked about the gentleman you recognize. These are all wealthy foreigners who moved to the United States and then constantly talk about how bad it is. He made a post saying I should be deported to Israel, that I have dual loyalty. My family's from America. I was born here. My parents were born here. Most of my grandparents were born here. My relatives that came here over 100 years ago came because they were desperate to be part of the greatest country in the history of the world. They did not come and then go on constantly about how bad it is and about how terrible it is and about how things need to change. If folks want to come to America, they should love it, they should share its values, and they should want to add value immediately. And far too many people who are coming do not share those values, and I believe it is a threat. The barbarians are no longer at the gate. They are now inside.
Also, amazing. Edward Said, most vindicated man in history. Just like listening to the word barbarians enter into the fucking lexicon again. And yeah, 100 years ago is just not that long ago. Like, realistically, relative to how long ago Cenk and his family came over, I don't actually know how long. But it's not like that long, right?
Wow. So you're calling Cenk Uygur a barbarian? Well, given he's here, let me bring him into this. Cenk, what is your response to that?
I also, just by the way, look at the way that he deals with fucking Nick Fuentes and has like his hissy crying fit, but then does nothing about like Randy Fine. Just goes, wow, you've said a mean thing.
Yeah, no, I don't mind because I agree that there are barbarians inside the gate, and that's Randy Fine. Randy Fine is a sick terrorist sympathizer. In fact, if he wants America to do terrorism on Israel's behalf, he has said we should nuke Gaza. That's killing millions of innocent children and human beings and civilians. But he doesn't care. He only cares about Israeli lives. By the way, the Israelis have murdered now nearly a dozen.
By the way, just looking at this guy's statements, kill them all, no mercy, bombs away. These are statements by this guy. I want to find the... Here we go. This is the worst one. May the streets of Gaza overflow with the blood of these animals. These animals live in Florida. Hopefully not for long. There is no suffering adequate for these animals. May the streets of Gaza overflow with their blood. The fact that this can be said whilst the American government actually does that is a far greater concern to me than, like, you know, this idea that there is this huge amount of, like, anti-Semitism that very often in the context of the American government is talking about people protesting against the state of Israel. Sure, talk about anti-Semitism and the fact that there is definitely a rise amongst figures who traffic in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, but simultaneously, this is an elected official talking about exterminating human beings and wishing for their blood to fill the streets, overflow on the streets.
Americans in the West Bank, no accountability from our government, and people like Randy Fine say we owe Israel a genocide, we owe Israel $300 billion, we owe them no accountability at all when they kill American citizens. They had a pervert Israeli government official that came here in Vegas and tried to rape our children, and we let him go? That's insane. Randy Fine, are you asking for the sick Israeli government to return the pedophile so he could face justice here? No, Randy Fine represents Israel, not America. Everybody knows that. He also said we should starve all the Gazans. So he's right. There's a sickness inside our government. AIPAC and the Israeli lobby have given to 90% of Congress. They've given him $500,000, and that was a giant waste because he works for Israel already. So, Randy, we're all sick of your terrorist sympathies towards Israel. They have committed 75 October 7th. Their civilian kill ratio is 83%, worse than Hamas, worse than any terrorist organization. They have murdered 256 journalists, more than all other conflicts.
Piers Morgan looks so strange here. Piers Morgan looks insane. What is wrong with Piers Morgan here?
Combined, they murdered...
His mouth looks like an arse.
104 people today, including 46 children. They burned them alive, and we're sick of Israeli terrorism, and we're sick of people like you forcing good Americans. I love this country. I didn't come here to be an occupied territory of Israel. I came here because I love America and the freedom and the equality and the justice that comes with it. If you think your grandparents who came here were not loyal to America,
I don't know if Cenk is actually based, I'm not going to lie. I don't think Cenk is very based here, talking about loving freedom in America.
You know, that's your business. But no, most of the people that come here come because we absolutely love this country and not Israel. Why don't you go to the Knesset, brother? Everybody knows you love Israel and you despise Palestinians and you love Israeli terrorism. Why don't you move to Tel Aviv already?
Okay. All right, Cenk, let Randy Fine respond. Randy.
Well, thank you, Piers, and thank you for the surprise debate. I actually enjoy that. Look, there's a concept in Islam called taqiyya where you're allowed to lie in advance of your political...
Oh, my God. People talk about the Reddit government. This is just the Hasbara government. Like, shitty online Hasbara mainlined into you from Randy Fine.
Views. And you just got a great crash course. All of those things were nonsense. But the notion that I am more loyal to Israel than I am the United States is part of it. Israel is fighting a war of civilization on our behalf. The reason we need a Jewish state of Israel is because of the Muslims that surround it. And so,
by the way, also, once again, never ever give Piers any kind of like fair account. Because what Randy Fine is saying here is crazy. But Piers Morgan had Douglas Murray host his show, who is someone who talks about this in the exact way that Randy Fine does.
I stand with Israel because I believe Israel is fighting the same fight that we have here in the United States, the same fight that people like Mamdani and Cenk, wealthy...
Oh, come on, bro. Stop calling him Mamdani. I know you guys noticed it earlier. It is crazy.
Muslims who move here in order to change the complex and the nature of our country are going to do it. And I won't apologize for that. I am very proud of my views. I'm very proud of my faith. I'm proud to be the first member of Congress in the history of the United States to wear a yarmulke, which you may be able to see on my head. And I know that drives them crazy because we're not supposed to do that. But they gave me the nickname the Hebrew Hammer for a reason, and I'm not going to be afraid to use it.
Oh, but Randy Fine, when you said I don't give a shit... Hang on, Cenk. Hang on, Cenk. Randy Fine, when you said I don't give a shit about Gazans, were you proud of that statement?
Piers looks terrible here.
Well, I think the context there is Gaza attacked Israel on October 7th. Of the thousands of people who streamed across the border to kill every man, woman, and child that they could, many of them, thousands of them, were not, quote unquote, card-carrying members of Hamas. And so when you start a war and you are losing the war, if you do not like what that is doing to you, then you surrender in that war. Gaza chose to be the enemy. Gaza chose to attack Western civilization. And no, I didn't care what happened. It was my view that if they didn't like it, they needed to surrender. Something, by the way, they still...
By the way, Hitler and any Nazi who believes in that ideology could just make this exact argument and blame and claim that anything they say is legitimated by the behavior of Jewish people. Like, I'm not saying it's true, and I'm not arguing that that's like in any way a meaningful ideology, but these people who balk at like Nazis and stuff, what is the difference? Like, what is the difference? Genuinely, what is the difference? Claiming that Gaza attacked all of Western civilization. These people are crazy.
Still haven't done, because yesterday the Gazans killed another IDF soldier in a place that...
Good.
Even under the peace deal, they are allowed to be. So
why do you
no,
call them...
I don't care historically about the Germans.
Randy Fine. But I've not had actually any guest. I have to be honest here. I've not had any guest who has used the phrase Gazans rather than Hamas, given it was specifically Hamas that perpetrated the appalling terror attacks on October the 7th.
Yeah, 100% it's the same ideology. Like, people need to make the realization that the modern Republican Party is just increasingly similar to the Nazis. Like, it's always been heading that way, but at this point, like, you've got people talking about how Palestinians deserve to die because they're not part of Western civilization, you know? Genuinely.
It's Hamas that has the governmental power still in Gaza. It's not the Gazan people. It's not the civilian population. So why are you deliberately conflating Gazans in totality with Hamas when Hamas numbers may be 40, 50,000 maximum out of 2 million?
I like seeing all of the Chris emotes in chat. Big fan of those. God, Jesus Christ as well. All of this shit on screen.
Because that is a propaganda lie. I'll give you 2 points. Number one, thousands of the people who streamed across the border on October 7th were not members of Hamas. That has been well established. Thousands of people came across the border who were so...
If Western civilization is so strong, why are they so scared of people's different religions and skin colors? Because none of these people, I know why you're saying that, but none of these people have a cohesive or meaningful understanding of what Western civilization actually is. Like, the only thing that they have that defines it is by hating others. Like, right-wingers would never admit this, but the entire basis of their politics is just hating others. That's where they get all of their enjoyment from.
Called civilians. And second, polling just came out...
I'm now enjoying seeing the spam.
Today. Polling just came out today that said if an election were held in Gaza today...
Hey, Sophie, how you doing?
Hamas would win overwhelmingly. Does that mean every Gazan supports Hamas? No, it does not. But to try to differentiate the two attempts to imply that some small percentage of Gazans support or like Hamas, that is not what the data suggests. And we should not allow us to say these two are completely different, Gazans and Hamas, because they are not.
All right.
By the way, like all of these people who call Hamas evil monster terrorists who did all of are the worst human barbarous savages on earth, play the same games that Fine do. Jesus,
It's utterly ridiculous.
Thanks, Sophie, for the $20. Good to see you, as always. And by the way, I will acknowledge the theory. Piers may be about to shit his pants. I don't know, though. I'm just thinking about it. W Sophie, as always. W everyone for watching. I can't believe there are 350 people watching on like a pretty standard news day where we haven't done anything like drama or exciting.
So, all right. So, Randy Fine. So when, for example, the United States, along with my country, the United Kingdom, and others, waged what many believe to have been an illegal war against Iraq in 2003, with the catastrophic consequences of 1 million deaths, the rise of ISIS, and so on. Is your position then that in that circumstance, every single civilian American is equally culpable to the military that waged that illegal war, and therefore any repercussions against any Americans on mainland America would be justified? Because that's what you're saying.
No, it's not what I'm saying. But I would note in the war that Israel has fought against Gaza, the percentage of civilians who have died versus the percentage of combatants is far lower than we saw in that war. Yet the outrage perpetrated...
By the way, there's literally no truth in that. America did heinous and horrible things, but Israel's ratio of slaughter to civilian, like combatants to civilians is almost unprecedented. The only similar places you find that in are in cases of genocide. Like, I mentioned this to Lonabox, and of course he had no response to it. Literally, look at the death toll of the Syrian civil war. And look at the highest estimate. Look at the amount of children allegedly killed. In the highest estimate. And you'll notice that it's like 30,000 over, 14 years?
Against Israel in a war where almost 1,000 IDF soldiers have died in order to minimize the casualties in Gaza.
Yeah, like, look at this. In a war where you include every single person, 30,000 children were killed, 16,000 women. Israel has gone way beyond those numbers in terms of the proportion of people that they've killed, which shows you how unbelievable their killings actually were.
Israel had
not to, like, minimize the Syrian civil war.
Wanted to wipe Gaza off the map, it could have done that. But it didn't because it wanted to minimize the death that was over there. The only difference between Gaza and Israel is Israel has the capability to do what it is accused of and chooses not to. Gaza does not have the capability to execute the genocide that it wants to because Israel stops it. That is the fundamental.
By the way, also, funny topic to kind of go back to the previous video we just watched. Him talking about Taqiyya and like how apparently Muslims are all evil liars seeking to trick good Westerners. You are coming on here and just lying for Israel. You realize that, right?
Fundamental difference between the two sides.
All right, Cenk, your final response before we let Randy Fine go.
Yeah, so as you've seen, he's constantly referring to the Muslims that surround Israel. They're the real problem. It's open bigotry. He's not even hiding it. And then he'll go and hide behind the human shields of good, innocent Jewish Americans and say, oh, no, if you criticize Israel, you're actually criticizing Jewish Americans, which no one did. It's the dirtiest trick in the using the anti-Semitism card.
I told you, he's turning into a cherry tomato out of respect for Israel.
Protect his form of terrorism that he supports, which Jewish Americans do not support. And so he says it's okay to kill the Gazans, which is collective punishment. He's not only said to nuke them and starve them, but he just said it right here on this air. He's a deeply sick man who wants to put a moral stain on this country by forcing us to fund the genocide of the Palestinians. They have already done 75 October 7th, but it's never enough murder for Randy Fine. They've already killed a stadium full. Imagine 20,000 murdered children lit on fire. Their heads exploded. Israel did all of that. And Randy Fine is saying it's not enough. Americans, go work another shift. because you got to send Israel more money to kill more Palestinian children and put that on America's soul. Don't listen to this guy. He doesn't believe in America. His whole point is to make sure that we fund his beloved Israel and their sick, disgusting terrorism.
Just call me a dirty
Israel
Jew.
is
You
the
want to,
largest
you trot it
terrorist
out the
entity.
dirty.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, just making this comment, like saying, oh, you want to be anti-Semitic, when he has been so racist against Arabs, Muslims, Palestinians, anyone that he can get his hands on. He will be racist against Mamdani, Cenk, anyone.
Trot it out. Come on, just
nobody
do it.
said that. You're the only one who says it. You're the
so badly.
sick, disgusting Muslim bigot.
Come on.
No one wants
He almost accidentally called him a sick, disgusting Muslim there.
Anti-Semitism. The only person who wants anti-Semitism is you, because you want to hide behind it. You bring up your yarmulke when no one else did. No one minds your yarmulke, except you brought it up as if like you're some sort of victim. You're the one who wants to nuke over a million
I'm not
people.
a victim at all.
You're not a victim.
I relish
you're a disgusting terrorist sympathizer.
Like you.
And you should not be inside the United States Congress. You are a stain on this country.
And all of your fellow invaders
you are trying to occupy America, so you steal our money
I was born here.
to send
We're not
money over to
occupying it.
Israel to steal Palestinian and Arab and Muslim land. And on top of that, here's one thing that's important is pro-Israel people like Randy Fine have spread hatred and fear of Muslims in this country my entire life. They have tried to get everyone to hate Muslims so that they could say, oh, look, now that Israel is defending Western civilization, you should murder all the Muslims and you should let Israel take all of their land because we are defending Western civilization. And then they have the audacity to complain about anti-Semitism.
Do you mind if I make one closing remark?
They are the biggest bigots in the country.
Chris, could you say no? I can't say that. Yeah. This guy is crazy.
Okay. All right, Cenk.
Literally for mass murder.
Randy. Yeah. Okay, I just want to make it clear to viewers before you, Randy. I'll give you one final response because, to be fair to you, you did not know you would be engaging in a wider debate with other panelists. I decided to bring Cenk in because you called him a barbarian invading the United States. I think if you do that about a panel member, they're entitled to respond. He's now obviously responded angrily and passionately.
Cenk just looks so funny here. He just like has gone from like being so animated to just kind of sitting there.
I'll give you one last word back, and then we're going to move back to the panel.
I would note I did not do that on the show. You could have warned me in advance. But again, I don't mind. I don't mind having the debate. I would note this: if Islamophobia was the big issue that Cenk makes it out to be, Mamdani would not have had to lie and make up an aunt that did not exist, who is not in the United States, dealing with so-called Islamophobia after 9/11. If the problem was real, the stories would be endemic and they would be everywhere. So people need to not believe the nonsense.
There are like in excess of 70,000 dead Palestinians. I think the stories are very much real, you sack of shit.
The fact of the matter is, if you hear someone yell Allahu Akbar walking down the street, you're probably going to take cover. Fear of Islam is rational. Doesn't mean all Muslims are bad. They are not. But this concern that many Americans have and that they have in your home country, it is real. And I thank you for having me on your show today. Happy to come back anytime.
Okay, Randy Fine, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. We're going to go back to the panel now, who've been waiting patiently there.
Wow, what an amazing conversation. But this isn't where I wanted to end this. So the guy who I wanted to talk about is Mort Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Chairman Nadler, Ranking Member Collins, members of the committee.
This is a guy who's talking about hate crimes, by the way.
First of all, I must say I have Tourette syndrome. Sometimes I have tics and make sounds I can't control, so please forgive me. For the past 25 years, I've served as president of the oldest pro-Israel organization, the Zionist Organization of America. We promote strong U.S.-Israel relations and work to protect American Jews and others from anti-Semitism and violence. As a child of Holocaust survivors, I personally felt the horrors of unbridled anti-Semitism. I was born in a DP camp in Germany, grew up without the loving presence of most of my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, whom the Nazis murdered. A front page article in the New York Times Friday headlines, bias is shared by extremes of the right, left, and Islam. We should keep that in mind. The Tree of Life synagogue murderer was a neo-Nazi who hated white President Trump for not being anti-Semitic, called Jews in the Trump administration a kike infestation. The New Zealand mosque murderer was actually a left-wing, self-described eco-fascist.
He's talking about Brennan Tarrant, who was most certainly not any of those things. He murdered 50 Muslims.
Who also published a manifesto praising communist China as the, quote, nation with the closest political and social values to my own. Most of us correctly treat neo-Nazis and white supremacists as horrifying. History reminds us that we cannot write neo-Nazism off as a marginal phenomenon. There's a plethora of
Mini Somaliland, or are you anti-Somalistic? No, I support Somaliland. But no, this is a horrible character. But just remember, this is a guy who's like having a conversation with, having a conversation with Randy Fine, like currently talking about Judea and Samaria. And just to preface this chat about his fears of bigotry, listen to his commentary on Black Lives Matter. I urge the SLPC to immediately put Black Lives Matter on their list of hate groups. BLM is a Jew-hating, white-hating, Israel-hating, conservative, black-hating, violence-promoting, dangerous Soros-funded extremist group. By the way, if you're concerned about, like, right-wing anti-Semitism, why are you spreading the notion that BLM is funded by George Soros?
Sickening neo-Nazi white supremacist internet sites fomenting hatred and violence primarily against Jews and blacks, but also against LGBTQ, women, feminists, and Muslims. We need to determine who is funding and is behind this. The FBI reports that Jews are the victims of 60% of the religious-motivated hate crimes in America. Jew hatred is the canary in the coal mine. It's unfortunately incumbent upon us to speak about the major issue threatening violence against Jews and all Americans, which is Muslim anti-Semitism.
Is that's not Candace, is it? Is it? I don't know.
Which is strengthened by significant institutional support and the support of imams and is becoming mainstream. Let's look at college campuses. During the decades that ZOA has been combating campus anti-Semitism, we've never received a single complaint about anti-Semitic discrimination, harassment, or intimidation perpetrated by neo-Nazis or white supremacists. By contrast, we receive hundreds of calls from students about anti-Semitic harassment, discrimination, and intimidation perpetrated by the left-wing, significantly Muslim hate group, Students for Justice in Palestine, SJP, and its allies. ZOA's letter...
Like, this is the guy, like, he's friends with Randy Fine, but this is the guy setting this kind of stuff up. I mean, he's one of, like, a large group of people, you know, who've spent their time talking about their alleged concerns about anti-Semitism and bigotry. This is 2019, but are simultaneously some of the biggest bigots themselves.
To city... ZOA's letter to City University, we have documented that at these SJP rallies, it is common for SJP demonstrators calling for Israel's...
No, that is Candace. That is Candace, I think. Morton Klein of the Zionist Organization of America and Candace Owens of Turning Point USA will be testifying at a congressional hearing on hate crime. The New Zealand mosque shooter who recently murdered more than 50 Muslims cited Candace Owens as his greatest influence in the manifesto he left behind. God, here's Candace Owens' old tweets. Crazy that she's changed so much to just... I think she may have stuck her finger up. But yeah, of course, Candace maybe hadn't said her Hitler comments here.
Elimination, screaming Jews out of their campuses. Jews are racist sons of bitches, forgive me. When we take control of this campus, we're going to kick you out and make sure you don't graduate. Get out of America, long live the Intifada. Last week at Columbia University, the anti-Semitic hate group SJP distributed a flyer for its Apartheid Week with a caricature of a Jew that looks like it came from the Nazis' propaganda tabloid, Der Stürmer. The Amcha Initiative database of almost 2,600 incidents confirms SJP and its allies are the perpetrators in most incidents on U.S. campuses. Unfortunately, that abhorrent incidents perpetrated by Muslim and leftist campus groups are rarely satisfactorily resolved. Let's look at the statistics. ADL's worldwide survey of 100 countries found that 49% of Muslims harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. This is a chart of that. You see the non-Muslim.
She does look so different to then. I think, oh, I wish we could see her full name. He's holding up, he's got the statistics to prove it.
It's far less. This is a painful fact that ADL has studied.
What? Candice's husband runs Turning Point UK. What?
It's more than double the anti-Semitism found among persons of other faiths. ADL data also shows in the U.S., 34% of Muslims, according to ADL, exhibit a high degree of anti-Semitism versus 14% of the general population. The 16 countries and the territories having the highest level of anti-Semitism were all in the Muslim Middle East. Levels of anti-Semitism there range from 74 to 93%. In a recent conference on anti-Semitism, a speaker said, 20 years ago, the major problem was anti-Semitism of the far right, but it flipped. Now it's the left and radical Muslims.
It's also amazing to be sat next to Candace Owens, herself a genuine anti-Semite, and to be saying this. Like, once again, no problem with any extremism. You saw his tweet about BLM. These people don't care about bigotry. It is literally just to focus on anti-Semitism to push their cause of Israel. They don't care about bigotry. They don't even care if Jewish people are actually subjected to anti-Semitism. They would rather just target Muslims.
We're in danger of seeing it spread to the Middle East and to Europe.
Well, the stats are just like fudged by claiming that people protesting against Palestine are all anti-Semitic. Like, we've literally seen the UK government do this during 2023, 2024, 2025. The Biden administration do it, the Trump administration do it, claiming that there is this rampant anti-Semitism on campus and totally ignoring, you know, the material reality of the vast majority of it is criticism of Israel. Sorry, I need my phone.
The danger and problem is there is institutional support for violence by leading imams. Al-Azhar University, which is the West Point of Islamic academia, trains imams who fan out all over the world. A highly influential treatise by the former Grand Mufti Tantawi said, quote, gentle persuasion can do no good with Jews, so use force with them. Treat them in the way you see as effective in ridding them of their evil.
By the way, also, all these people who cite like a quote from ex-imam, I'm sorry, there are so many quotes from, like, rabbis in Israel saying unbelievable stuff. Like, David Sheen is someone who's been following this for a very long time.
At Al-Azhar Friday sermons, they've recited hadiths saying we have to commit genocide against the Jews in order to usher in the Messianic Day of Judgment. During the past year and a half, in mosques in North Carolina, New Jersey, California, Texas, Pennsylvania, imams have made the same speeches about genocide against the Jews. Can you imagine if rabbis called to murder Christians or priests were called to murder Muslims?
I mean, there are literally people who do that. There are rabbis who call for the murder of Palestinians regularly.
We've demanded they should be fired. They weren't. Wayne Hurst Ali, a well-known Somali former Muslim, said, I confess that if you're Jewish, I want to apologize to you. When my half-sister showed me holy Quranic verses to support her hatred of Jews, I feared arguing with Allah, for Allah would burn me. I also hated Jews. I'm ashamed of my prejudice against you in the past. As Egyptian President Sisi said in a speech at Al-Azhar University, we need a religious revolution. You imams are responsible before Allah. The entire world is...
He does have Tourette's, yes, he also mentioned his history. He was born in a displacement camp. So he was, or he grew up in a displacement camp, which is wild, you know, it's a wild story, to then go on to become a bigot associated with Randy Fine.
Waiting.
Yeah, and also calling him President Sisi. He loves Sisi, though. He mentioned Sisi, like, 6 years later when he was with Randy Fine.
Let's speak frankly. If we want to stop hate and stop institutions from supporting and condoning it, I don't know how much time I have.
You're 48 seconds over.
Well, but I was stopped. I was stopped. With the outburst. The outburst.
Go ahead.
The outburst was not that long.
Another 30 seconds.
I have something very, very important to say. Especially as a child of Holocaust survivors. I was horrified to see Speaker Pelosi, Leader Hoyer defend Representative Omar after her vicious anti-Semitic remarks and presidential...
Okay, the gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Klein, you remember the chairman agreeing to give you an extra 30 seconds because of the interruption that you experienced during your opening statement. And then do you remember being gavelled down by the chairman once you began speaking of the anti-Semitic remarks by a member of Congress? And Reese, we've just timed this. You only got 12 seconds. I have 30 seconds left, and so I'm going to give you those 30 seconds that you were promised and were denied.
Well,
yo, it's definitely Candace. I mean, you probably can't see it, but in the corner it says Miss Can, and it is Candace.
I am deeply pained that after a congresswoman from Minnesota called Israel evil, hypnotized the world, Israel's an apartheid state, Jews used their money to promote what they want out of Congress, that this woman was defended by leaders of her party, defended by at least 3 members of her party who are running for president, with no consequence. She should have been removed from all of her committees, just the way Stephen King was, for this unbelievable outburst of hatred toward Jewish people. In fact, there's actually a member of this very committee who publicly called Jews termites of this committee, and there was no consequence to that outrageous statement. So this...
It's also just funny because this guy is such a racist, but what I've got to see, which I've never seen before, is the Candace crash
Thank you,
out.
Mr. Chair. In congressional hearings, the minority party gets to select its own witnesses. And of all the people that Republicans could have selected, they picked Candace Owens. I don't know Miss Owens. I'm not going to characterize her. I'm going to let her own words do the talking. So I'm going to play for you the first 30 seconds of a statement she made about Adolf Hitler.
I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. Problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German.
All right, so my first question is to Ms. Hirschenoff.
There's just a total lack of seriousness to sit there and complain about campus anti-Semitism. Sat next to Candace Owens, who said that. Like, Candace Owens is now a problem for this guy because she criticized Israel. But when she said that wasn't an issue.
Ms. Owens said, quote, if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. So when people try to legitimize Adolf Hitler, does that feed into white nationalist ideology?
It does, Mr. Liu. I know that Ms. Owens distanced herself from those comments later, but we expressed great concern over the original comments.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Owens, I'm sorry. We just heard a recording. Would you like time to respond to that?
Yes, I think it's pretty apparent that Mr. Liu believes that black people are stupid and will not pursue
Oh my God, what an era. What an era that's bygone. Candace Owens doing the Mort Klein thing of being like, oh, you know, this is a targeted attack on black people because they wouldn't let me praise Hitler.
Full clip in its entirety. He purposely presented an extracted clip.
The witness will suspend for a moment. It is not proper to refer disparagingly or to a member of the committee. The witness will not do that again. Witness may continue.
Sure, even though I was called despicable.
Witness may not refer to a member of the committee as stupid.
I didn't refer to him as stupid. That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all. You didn't listen to what I said. May I continue?
Please.
As I said, he is assuming that black people will not go pursue the full 2-hour clip. And he purposefully he cut off, and you didn't hear the question that was asked of me. He's trying to present as if I was launching a defense of Hitler in Germany, when in fact, the question that was asked of me was pertaining to whether or not I believed that whether or not I believed in nationalism, and that nationalism was bad. And what I responded to was that I do not believe that we should be characterizing Hitler as a nationalist. He was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people. A nationalist would not kill their own people. That is exactly what I was referring to in the clip, and he purposely wanted...
By the way, a nationalist would obviously do that. Hitler wasn't even the first person with that idea in Germany. I think it's Hindenburg at the end of the First World War literally wanted to make a stand where they just killed huge amounts of Germans intentionally on the basis of, like, we don't want to surrender, we want to go down fighting.
Trying to give you a cut-up similar to what they do to Donald Trump to create a different narrative. That was unbelievably dishonest, and he did not allow me to respond to it, which is worrisome and should tell you a lot about where people are today in terms of trying to drum up narratives. By the way,
the spirit of Yahya Sinwar is haunting the conservative movement.
I would like to also add that I work for Prager University, which is run by an Orthodox Jew. Not a single Democrat showed up to the embassy opening in Jerusalem. I sat on a plane for 18 hours to make sure that I was there. I'm deeply offended by the insinuation of revealing that clip without the question that was asked of me.
Thanks, Mrs. Owens, and I yield.
Wow, what an interesting... I've never seen that before. Thanks for someone who said that. I also didn't know that she went to Israel's embassy. That is unbelievable. Also, why was it an 18-hour plane to Israel? Oh, actually, I guess it depends where you are in the US. I was about to say, I was like, that's crazy, but it's not actually that crazy, is it, at all? And we'll finish up with this. We'll finish up with Mort Klein's recent Zionist Organization of America. Oh my God, he had a congressional testimony. Oh, I've got to see this.
Advancing mutually beneficial U.S.-Israel alliance, combating anti-Semitism, ensuring the safety of both America and Israel.
Look at the ladies in the back with the pro-Palestine t-shirts and the guy wearing the keffiyeh.
Before that, I was in medical research, working for many years with the two-time Nobel Prize winner Linus Pauling at Stanford University. The Jewish people are called Jews because we are from Judea. We are Judeans. Jew is a contraction of the word Judean. We are Judea and Samaria's indigenous people. American leaders have long recognized this. President John Adams wrote, "I really wish the Jews would reestablish Judea as an independent Jewish nation." Other presidents, from Lincoln to Truman, has urged Judea and Samaria, then the region of Palestine, to become a Jewish state. Judea and Samaria is the historic Jewish homeland where Jews lived for thousands of years.
By the way, the term Judea and Samaria literally became popular in Israel because of Menachem Begin. This is undeniable, like undeniably not something that you can claim otherwise. This was something that he did.
This is where the first Jew, Abraham, purchased his and Sarah's burial place, where God first speaks to Abraham, promising Judea and Samaria to him, which was the beginning of the Jewish connection to Judea and Samaria, where the Jews, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Ruth, Leah, are buried in the cave of Machpelah, one of the holiest Jewish places in Judaism. Here was the first capital under King David. The Jew Jacob slept and dreamt here. The Jew Joseph is buried there. The Jewish tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant, stood there for 369 years.
But also, like, if you're going to go and advocate for Israel, like, the Randy Fine position of just being like, nope, we have a right for everything and we deserve it and I hate everyone else, like, kill everyone, in comparison to people who come up and are just like, oh, well, you know, we're so targeted and stuff, and they use, like, this whole, like, racist language and stuff. It's crazy. But, I mean, I guess Randy Fine does that as well and claims everyone's anti-Semitic.
And the Maccabees, the heroes of the Hanukkah story, lived and established their base to reclaim Israel and the Jewish temple and built fortresses there to protect the Jewish people. Exodus in the Bible.
Yeah, it is. It's Mort Klein. By the way, he has Tourette's, so don't mock him on that basis, you know.
Relates that Moses and Joshua led the Jewish people to their homeland in Judea and Samaria. Jews have had a continuous presence there for over 3,000 years. The Jewish spiritual and historical connection has never severed or lapsed for Jews. Judea and Samaria was in the heart of the Jewish kingdoms that existed for hundreds of years. King David and Solomon unified Jewish kingdoms. Jews lived in Hebron, the oldest Jewish community in the world, until the infamous massacre of Hebron's innocent Jews in 1929, but came back in 1935. By contrast, Arabs hail from Arabia and North Africa. They are not,
God, it is just the Hasbara world presidency. Arabs are from Arabia. Thank you.
Not indigenous to Judea and Samaria. There was never a Palestinian Arab state in Judea and Samaria, even when they controlled it from 48 to 67. Palestine is a Roman name, not an Arab name. The Romans renamed Judea and Samaria and surrounding areas Palestine after the Jewish enemy, the Philistines, to cause pain to the Jews and to try to de-Judaize the area. Arabs can't even pronounce the letter P. They can't say Palestine. They say Philistine. Judea and Samaria, moreover, is legally Jewish land. A series of binding international agreements, the San Remo Resolution, League of Nations Covenant, British Mandate, Lodge Fish, UN Charter Article 80, recognize the Jewish people.
I'm not listening to his congressional hearing of him just doing Zionist propaganda. And in fact, what we'll actually listen to rather than that is clips of it, because I don't want to listen to 12 minutes of this guy. He's an idiot. he calls for a fight against hatred.
Of Muslims in New York has gone from 10 years ago, 100,000 Muslims, to 1 million. Yes, the demographics have changed. The people of America has not changed so much, but the demographics have changed. That's what happened. And also large numbers of conservative right-of-center people have left New York, moved to Florida and elsewhere. You had a totally different demographic. That explains one of the reasons this vicious, communist, racist, Jew-hating, Israel-bashing monster was elected.
You know this guy openly endorses, like, Otzma Yehudit? Like, they openly endorse, he openly endorses the Jewish Power Party in Israel.
And what's frightening, though, there's a huge danger that Jew hatred and Israel bashing has become a badge of conscience and enlightenment. There's been a moralization and legitimization and mainstreaming of bigotry against Jews. Bigotry is disguised as principle. Hatred is baptized as virtue. Hostility to Israel now indicates decency and high morals. We at the ZOA will fight these dangerous and monstrous lies with all of our hearts and souls. No appeasement, no conciliation, only a war against this racist hatred of...
You are a racist! Like, it's so pathetic to go up and just be like, we're gonna fight against racism! You are the most racist guy in the room!
The Jewish people.
Yeah, and I guess Iranians can say P and they still call it Palestine.
As Barbara Tuchman said, the rule of human behavior is that yielding to an enemy's demands does not satisfy them, but by exhibiting a position of weakness, it augments the enemy. It doesn't terminate hostility, it excites hostility. Our Torah teaches us to fight Jew hatred, be strong, proud, and powerful Jews, work to strengthen the Jewish state, raise...
You're like 80 years old. Do you think that this is coming off as like really like, oh my God, this guy's gonna defeat everything?
Our Jewish children, give them a Jewish education, attend synagogue, build Jewish institutions, and tell your kids to marry Jewish people. Reduce the amount of intermarriage. We need more Jews, not less.
So weird, man. Like just ending your speech with like a shouting, tell your kids to marry Jewish people. And this isn't the only odd thing he was up to.
53 Arab countries. 53 Muslim countries. There's 22 Arab countries. Most of these Arab countries were put together haphazardly by certain important nations. Israel was given to the Jewish people by Hashem, by God, by the Bible, and under international law. The UN Charter, Article 80, says that it prohibits, this is international law, prohibits the UN from transferring rights over any part of Palestine to any non-Jewish entity, such as a Palestinian state. UN resolution that contradicts this charter are void. That's why there's no Palestinian state. It's against international law. So as long as Israel says no to a Palestinian state, there can't be a Palestinian state, or it would violate international law. We should realize that and understand that.
Wow, what a rousing statement. The Zionist movement is certainly going to be saved by this. And then there's one final one, which I just managed to pull up, and now I've lost, so I'm going to have to look through. Oh. Here he is talking about Tucker Carlson. Bear in mind, he was sat across from with Candace Owens after the Hitler comments. I thought that was before them, by the way.
Jewish groups, we the ZOA, we push back against the lies and the hatred, as we always have, by going on...
Yeah, 100%, Ivan. This guy comes off as a total weirdo. Like, how is this rousing? Who is this for?
TV, radio, op-eds, speeches on campuses, Capitol Hill, in the courts. We do everything we can. Lately, we have fought against the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation has embraced Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson used to condemn Pat Buchanan for being an anti-Semite. Do you know that? He used to condemn him. Now Tucker Carlson says that Christian supporters of Israel have a brain virus and they're committing heresy against Christianity. He said, I dislike them more than anyone. He accuses Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, Ambassador Mike Huckabee, thank you, Secretary of State Rubio, Hegseth. He's accusing them of a brain virus and being heretical to Christianity. It's nonsense. He accuses Americans who fought to support America destroying nukes in Iran as warmongers. And he condemns those, and he says those who fought against destroying the nukes, he calls them peacemakers. But not only does he make terrible statements against Jews himself, he brings on a half a dozen of the most vicious, maniacal, crackpot anti-Semites the world knows. These people deny the Holocaust. They praise Hitler as being cool and awesome. They praise Stalin. They attack Charlie Kirk for being pro-Israel.
Okay, I'm with Mort here. Do not attack Chazakirka. Love him. But yeah, like, of course they're warmongers. Like, they're literally trying to go to war with Venezuela. These people are, of course, warmongers.
Unlike when he interviewed Ted Cruz, who was very pro-Israel, he attacked Cruz, condemned Cruz, debated Cruz. When these people made these outrageous statements, he suddenly was silent.
You sat next to... I'm sorry, it tears apart your ideology so much more that you sat next to Candace Owens.
He either nodded...
Yeah, you're right. Jonathan Greenblatt is sat there, like, going, USA! Or maybe he would be going, Israel, Israel, Israel. I don't know, but... Jonathan Greenblatt is definitely punched in the air right now, loving this.
Approval or said nothing, acting as if these people are making valid points, which, of course, they're just a bunch of crackpot Jew haters. And Kevin Roberts of Heritage called people who criticize Tucker Carlson as venomous people who have another people's agenda. He accused Jews of dual loyalty, another people's agenda, Israel's agenda. It's...
We are all Charlie Kirk. Of course we all are. Of course we all are. I don't think that even needs saying at this point. We are Charlie Kirk, Chazzy K. But, like, what is this? Like, you and Randy Fine spent all of your time advocating for Israel and saying that not being pro-Israel is just fundamentally against American values. Of course, saying that no Jewish person could ever, participate in another society and be part of that society is anti-Semitic and ridiculous. But what the fuck are you saying, Mort Klein? Like, you don't even give a shit about anti-Semitism when it came from someone who was on your side at the time, Candace Owens.
Total rubbish. We went to war against him. Op-eds, TV, radio. We said you must retract, apologize, and condemn Tucker. You must end relations of Tucker, or you must resign yourself. Because of ZOA and others, the Esther Anti-Semitism program at the Heritage Foundation has now severed all relations with Heritage. They're gone. And there's an increased effort to ultimately dismiss this man as well.
You have no problem with white nationalists. Your problem is exclusively with Israel, with anyone who criticizes Israel. Fucking hell. Crazy stuff that this is taken seriously. That this guy has had influence over the US government for this long. And unfortunately, no, I've not heard Charlie Kirk of you. Charlie Kirky, I just popped a perky. I've not had the pleasure of hearing that. But, I'm gonna go pee right now, and I'll be back to cover the Venezuela stuff after this.
أنا للقدسي من البلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة أنا للقدسي من البلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة أنا من القدسي 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 من البلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة أنا من القدسي من البلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة أنا من القدسي أنا من القدسي أنا من القدسي أنا من القدسي في الشوارع في المزارع في المصانع في الطرقات في الشوارع في المزارع في المصانع في الطرقات سأبقى أناضل 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 لتحرير الأرض والإنسان سأبقى أناضل 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 لتحرير الأرض والإنسان أنا من القدس 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 بالبلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع فلسطين.
Guess what? I'm back. Okay, right. We got a final story to finish up on. I was meant to stop the recording before that, but oh well, who cares? The debate with Lonerbox is going to be up in an edited form soon, by the way. My God, there's a lot of emojis in the chat. Stop the damn emojis! Nah, I'm joking. Only Chris Kunzer emojis, please. Right, we're going to talk about... We're going to talk about... What are we going to talk about? Oh, we're going to talk about Venezuela. I really want to watch this guy.
I'm Connell McShane. This is a business roundtable that we've been watching. Tech leaders, Dell, HP, Qualcomm, and others. But the big news seemed to...
So the US has seized an oil tanker near Venezuela. Actually, you know what? We should probably go through some of the stuff pertaining to that specifically. We should show the video of that. Venezuela statement on the oil tanker.
To be related to Venezuela, as during that event, the president confirmed a major escalation when it comes to Venezuela. An oil tanker has been seized off the coast of that country. Also responded to some of the turmoil here at home. Daily Take Time with Geraldo Rivera.
Hey, thanks for becoming a member for 2 months, Nagok.
Listening in as we cover the president, and joining us now.
Who is this guy? Why does he look like this? What is going on with the moustache? Crazy.
Live from Cleveland. Good to see you, Geraldo. What about this? Is this take it up? And the president says the oil tanker's been seized. We'll learn more later, but he assumes we'll keep the oil.
As you said, Connell, it is a dramatic escalation of the confrontation with the Maduro regime in Venezuela. The largest tanker we have ever seized. It's unclear so far what the nationality of it is.
He's got crazy law. What, for his mustache? And on the topic of piss break requests, no, I just do music that isn't copyrighted. The only thing I've got to say also about this is, and I think it's important to note, and I will talk about this more, this looks like the closest the US has been. This story kind of went quiet, and it was like, okay, maybe it's just going to be a back off and a move down, a drawdown, sorry.
It is utterly ridiculous.
But no, I don't think it will be. Hey, Nagok, thanks for the 1 membership. Shout out. Who was the country Karl Marx? No bloody way. Karl Marx is back alive. And you're a member of my community? Wow.
Discern that, and we'll shortly find out, I'm sure. I was surprised the market didn't have a little glitch toward the end there when it became clear that whatever has been happening in Venezuela with the destruction of the dope runners and so forth, it's just as the president said, there's more to come. There's no doubt in my mind, but that this is the beginning of something, Connell, not the end.
Beginning of what? Oil up about just under 60, so you're right, nothing huge yet. Stocks, I think, are more focused on the Fed today, but beginning of what?
Beginning of...
It is an interesting comment on like what might happen. And also, country Karl Marx, I kind of need you to show the new emojis. You better make use of those damn new emotes that you can use. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, is this Geraldo? That too, he is a racist icon, unfortunately. I mean, listening to his speech to begin with, where he's kind of gleeful about this. Once again, I got the statement kind of wrong, or I did get it wrong. 7 million people have left Venezuela, or around that amount, 6 million, 5 million, according to some places, since 2014. There is a huge amount more that are leaving currently, like a few 100,000, multiple hundreds of thousands of people who are fleeing. And this shit, like, there are 30 million people in Venezuela who are at risk of having their lives torn apart, like torn to pieces by this.
I think an incremental military intervention aimed at the overthrow of the Maduro regime I'm sure that part and parcel of whatever the president is doing will be trying to secure safe passage for the Venezuelan dictator to some country other than ours. Who will take him? You know, maybe somebody in maybe Switzerland or some other nation in Europe or in Latin America. He might not take a deal to go to another Latin American country. I remember when what's his name, Somoza, the dictator of Nicaragua, took a deal to go to Paraguay, and he got assassinated in Paraguay. So
that the statement from Petro, where he was like, they're going to invade our country to cover up the Epstein files. I don't know, bro. It kind of feels that way, but I don't think it's just as simple as that. I think it's about uniting the base. And yeah, the amount of likes on this stream are not good enough. So you're all saying it's pronounced Geraldo. Thanks for backing me up, guys. It's pronounced Geraldo.
So I think that's what you're seeing.
No, mediocre violist is currently going to be... she's going to cry when she hears this. I'm going to call him Geraldo just to cause upset amongst you guys.
You're seeing the beginning of the United States military boots on the ground. There wasn't on the ground quite, but it was an oil tanker with inside of land. They took it. They seized it. The president says that we will keep the oil. This is all, you know, you cannot possibly be more in the face of Maduro than the president has been. The only thing from here on in is some land-based operation similar to take over, seize an oil refinery, say, or something of that nature. But the news is the tanker has been taken. We don't usually seize tankers, so this is a big deal, Connell.
If you're right about what's next.
Also, what is going to happen? Like, what is going to actually happen? What will be the outcome? Like, what do they do? Because surely just bombing Venezuela a bit will not be, will not just, like, finish it. Killing, God, Jesus. We're just talking about Geraldo, by the way. Geraldo Rivera. I think you'll like it. Geraldo Rivera, the guy with the mustache, the gentleman here, Geraldo. It's crazy that you came in, but one of you said a gang of pedophiles. It's not the gang of 4 this time. It's the gang of 312 pedos. Actually, you know what? That's just talking about Trump. It's the gang of near enough 500 pedos.
In all of this, Geraldo, does he go to Congress for authorization on any of this? I can't imagine he would. Would he? You know, knowing President Trump.
You know, I think you sum it up. Knowing President Trump is the operative phrase there. It does not seem to me that this president or this this administration believes in the need to go to Congress to fight dope dealers.
Is this guy also like a Dem? Like, I know you said he's racist, but like Richard Nixon, I like, is he a racist Dem? Because like, I don't think the two are like really problematic in terms of, you know, the long-standing history of Dems. But yeah, Geraldo of Rivia, really? Geraldo. No, fuck, am I doing it wrong? I don't even remember what I meant to say now.
It seems to me that they have...
Because, like, also, this is just... They never go to Congress to go to war, do they? Realistically, they just bypass it over and over again. Ken Klippenstein wrote a long article about this.
This quasi-law enforcement, military kind of approach to the problem. Americans are dying, ergo, we've got to do something to protect our citizens. We've got to fight deadly force or fight deadly drugs with deadly force. I think that also you have the whole...
Oh, so he's upset about Trump because Trump is going to war. Reagan would never do that. Reagan would never support anyone bad. My boy Reagan was doing great things.
Whole notion of, we have a government in waiting in Venezuela. Maduro lost the presidential election. He is a dictator clinging to power in an unconstitutional way. the people of Venezuela, I'm sure that the president of the United States, this president, could get as many Venezuelans as he needs to stand by him as they make an announcement of the United States recognizing I think we already do recognize the government that won the election, the opposition force that won the last election over a year ago. Everyone says the election was robbed by Maduro. You know, where does he go? Where does he go from here? What's next? I think that whatever you're betting, think drama and think military, and think bite your nails and worry that.
Like, in my understanding, it is undeniable that Maduro did not win the election. Like, he didn't, right? But the thing is that, like, the people inciting and calling him a dictator, they don't give a shit. They don't care about any other US foreign policy where they back up a dictator. Like, not one iota do they care about that.
This thing could squeeze out of hand, but I think there's more. There's definitely more. There's more to come. The oil tanker, the most overt action, at least since our fleet has been deployed south of Puerto Rico, north of Venezuela.
Thank you for watching.
Chris Cuomo runs News Nation. Wow, I'd forgotten about that. I like him. I like him and his brother. His brother is Andrew Cuomo. He's a good guy. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He was doing great things. But yeah, the Democrats are really taking a principled stance on
President Trump's ultimate goal of regime change in Venezuela?
Look, I guess I should probably watch this, just this whole thing of Chuck Schumer on CNN rather than just a tiny bit, because I don't need to. I'm not watching. This is not a clip watching show. Oh, it's not on YouTube, I don't think. Okay, it's not on YouTube.
The bottom line is, President Trump throws out so many different things in so many different ways, you don't even know what the heck he's talking about. You know, obviously, if Maduro would just flee on his own, everyone would like that. But we don't know what the heck he's up to when he talks about that. So it's very, you cannot say, I endorse this, I endorse that, when Trump is all over the lot, not very specific, and very worrisome at how far he might escalate.
He doesn't disagree with, he refuses to say whether he disagrees with the ultimate goal of regime change. So it's brilliant to know that this, this lesser of two evils that we must keep on voting for will do like will make major changes.
Seizing.
And we got CNN with some other brilliant analysis.
A tanker. How could this escalate the conflict with Venezuela?
Well, we've had sanctions on Venezuelan oil since the first Trump administration. And
Biden kept them.
Kept them.
Yeah.
So to me, this is absolutely normal. I mean...
Seizing an oil tanker?
Yeah, we've been seizing Iranian oil tankers in the past. We also, according to the law that I've read, that oil is up for forfeiture. So we could keep that. We've kept Iranian oil in the past. So I actually think that this is less controversial in terms of law and sanctions and what has been, disputed or not disputed. Like, I think this is actually a pretty, check the box case.
I don't think they even care about like the regime change. I genuinely think it is just something to unite their base and like show a strong stance against China or, Hezbollah and Hamas, apparently, according to some.
Now, what will this mean in terms of escalation? What is he going to do? What is Maduro going to do? Is he going to step aside because we're sanctioning this oil? I mean, we pick up this oil tanker. It's one oil tanker. Probably not.
And it's unlikely.
It's brilliant to know. Venezuela offered their own statement. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela denounces and energetically repudiates repudiates what constitutes a brazen robbery and an act of international piracy publicly announced by the President of the US, who confessed to the seizure of an oil tanker in the Caribbean Sea. This is not the first time he has admitted it. During his 2024 campaign, he openly stated that his objective has always been to take Venezuelan oil without paying anything in return, making clear that the policy of aggression against our country responds to deliberate plan to plunder our energy resources. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is also a part of it, but I also think that the regime change, like, in Iraq, right, there was definitely money to be made in Iraq, but, like, you know, the US government also wanted to assert and, like, have something in the war on terror, you know? And there was definitely a huge amounts of money to be made, but it's normally by private citizens. Like, the US government spent a lot, but that all went to contractors and, you know, companies who were able to... Halliburton, for example. I couldn't make this shit up. No, you couldn't. And to be honest, I haven't seen... You guys are talking about the rhetoric on there. The rhetoric of the opposition leader, Machado, what she was saying about freedom was amazing. Because that is like the most war on terror rhetoric. Because freedom is such an abstract comment, and the idea that the US pursues it around the world is such a funny notion, especially now, like, where the partnership with the UAE is so brazen. It's not like a little wink at them like it was in the era of, like, Reagan. Of course they were friends with these dictatorships and supported these people, but, like, Trump is literally just loving Saudi Arabia and such. Just a gentle reminder that Chris is his own streamer, and while, yes, we have a lot of Hassan fans in here, we don't need to bring him up all the time. What are you talking about, Hassan? You can bring up Hassan if you want. Lenin told Hassan Piker, the Democrats, it's okay to bring him up. I don't think he'd care that if I talk about him. I don't hate Hassan in any capacity. I think that there are certain things that he should change how he behaves. Definitely, but I think generally as a person, like, Hassan is, like, objectively a positive influence that has, you know, spawned many other positive content creators and helped bring people towards politics, because I don't think the vast majority of Hassan fans are actually just Democrat lovers. I don't think that that's true. US is going to do another war for oil, but this time conservatives online can't say that Israel controls the US, so they'll support it with no reservations. I mean, quite possibly, yeah. I mean, quite possibly. But also, I think... the only problem is that there is, like, a base of Americans who are, like, kind of, no foreign wars. And the whole freedom notion of West versus East civilization stuff doesn't sell on this, really, does it? I guess that's why, opposition leader has been trying to work into it, has been trying to work into it, you know, this Hamas, Hezbollah is who she's, focused on. Hezbollah's who she's focused on. And also, there was another one I saw. Don't forget to smash that like button, definitely. Head first, but I completely agree with Chris on take on how his son should conduct himself. Definitely, yeah. And also, Sammy Sosa, yours is the comment that I actually wanted to talk about. She loves the IDF. Yeah, she said, didn't she say Venezuela's victory is Israel's victory? Anyway, humanity is awakening and fighting against the imperial abuses of the North, as demonstrated in numerous and well-attended protest demonstrations in various US states and European cities. The Venezuelan people also gave a resounding demonstration in the streets of Venezuela to defend the peace of our country. Like, however you think and feel, I think, like, citing this one opposition leader as just like, no, this means we should blow the hell out of Venezuela and Maduro will cede power is ridiculous. It's not true. It's not gonna happen. Like, this is the notion around Iraq too. In Iraq, right, there was this belief from some Iraqi dissidents that everyone in Iraq was against Saddam Hussein and that America would be welcomed basically as heroes, and it just wasn't the case. Like, the invasion of Iraq categorically spawned ISIS and predominantly increased ISIS's success. Like, even if you think it's a CIA invention, right, the Islamic State, when they fought against the US and when they took over huge amounts of territory, was so successful because of huge amounts of, like, disaffected Baathists. It's also interesting how many of you found either found me from Hassan or either through Noah Sampson. I mean, we've gone full circle, and I think you guys are going to love the episode we're doing with Noah, because it's going to be some introspection. It's going to be some thought, but that'll be nice. Yeah, I mean, I know people who think and feel like Bad Empanada, and I think that there's definitely something to be said about, like, a lot of the way he talks about topics and stuff, but sometimes I think that, like, burning bridges is just not the best idea, if you know what I mean, and, like, just kind of alienating yourself and moving your content away from people. You can end up just preaching to a choir, by the way. No evil person could win the Nobel Peace Prize. No. Menachem Begin was brilliant. He was the real indictment of. He was the real example of. He was the real example of brilliant human being. I get my general news and more in-depth academic analysis. Yeah, I wish I had more of an academic basis in talking about Venezuela, to be honest. I'd love to. I'm always learning. I'm learning and reading and watching and doing this stuff. From a stream. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is most of my TikTok audience aren't here. I wonder if there's actually any of you. Is there anyone on here who is, like, from TikTok, who found me first on there? Because there's a couple of people who loved my streaming, but yeah. Oh, you randomly found me on TikTok, so you're actually someone, Ramelia. But yeah, this is Venezuela's statement. Sorry, I've not really been reading it out. This new criminal act adds to the theft of Citgo, an important strategic asset belonging to all Venezuelans, seized through fraudulent judicial mechanisms and outside any legal norm. Humanity is awakening and fighting against the Oh, wait, we read that. Under these circumstances, the true reasons for the prolonged aggression against Venezuelans have finally been exposed. It is not migration. It is not drug trafficking. It is not democracy. It is not our human rights. It has always been about our natural resources, our oil, our energy, the resources that belong exclusively to the Venezuelan people. Likewise, we denounce that this is an act of piracy. By the way, they're also so vindicated in this because the opposition leader is just like, oh, you know, I'm gonna open up this. Also, why have I gained 100 new viewers in the last very short amount of time? What is that about? Why have you all just sort of came in? Crazy on leftover sub. Yeah, I mean, I've been making videos on TikTok for ages. Why have 80 people just come in when we're talking about something? I assume it's like a fake inflated viewers. Yeah, it was. Likewise, we denounce that this act of piracy seeks to distract attention and cover up the resounding failure of the political show staged today in Oslo, where the manipulations and lack of results of those who have attempted for years, without any success, a regime change operation through violence and open complicity with the Western governments were once again exposed. Venezuela calls on all Venezuelan people to remain firm in defense of the homeland and urges the international community to reject this vandalistic, illegal, and unprecedented aggression that is being normalized as a tool of pressure and plunder. The Bolivarian government reaffirms that it will go well before all existing international bodies to denounce this grave international crime and will defend with absolute determination its sovereignty, its natural resources, and its national dignity. Venezuela will not allow any foreign power to attempt to seize from the Venezuelan people what belongs to them by historical and constitutional right. Current Palestine topics related to the streams are super fun as well, even when I'm generally lurking. Yeah, I think the thing is I prefer streaming on here just by so much over TikTok. I don't like doing debates constantly. I know they bring in viewers and I'd be happy to talk to certain people about topics, but like generally I'm not wanting to create like a debate bro channel where I like regularly debate people. It's not something I'm that interested in anymore. It was just a way to gain viewers. The viewers are going insane right now. Down from, they were up at 380 and now they're down at 295 right now. Maduro and Qatar are paying everyone in here a barrel of oil each. Here's Trump's statements on it.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an interesting day from the standpoint of news. As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people. Well, thank
It's very troubling that he says things are going to happen, but I don't know. And then he gave a very confused statement about what's going to happen to the oil.
What happens to the oil on this ship? Well, we keep it, I guess.
Where does it go? What port does it go to?
Well, you have to follow the tanker. You know, you're a good newsman. Just follow the tanker.
Do you know where
Follow it. Get a helicopter and follow the tanker.
Is it true it's going to
But we're gonna. I assume we're gonna keep the oil.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious as well that the major escalation is coming because they evacuated Corina Machado. I've forgotten how you pronounce her name in spite of watching a ton of her earlier. But listen to what she tells you is going to happen.
Speak to the Norwegian people, to European people, to the Venezuelan people. I would say to all citizens of the world in this hour, and assure you that I am very hopeful Venezuela will be free, and we will turn a country into a beacon of hope, an opportunity of democracy, and we will welcome not only the Venezuelans that have been forced to flee, but citizens from all over the world that will find a refuge, as Venezuela used to be decades ago. And as I mentioned,
this is what I mean, though. She's been the craziest in terms of, like, Iraq war rhetoric of, like, freedom and such. Such an abstract content. But have you read The Confessions of an Economic Hitman? No, I never have. I can't say I have.
Well, Ana Corina read yesterday. I believe that our experience in Venezuela conveys to the world a testimony that certainly, in order to have peace, you require democracy. Democracy is the system that enables peace in a society. But you cannot have democracy without freedom.
What does this mean? What do these words even mean? Like, I mean, yeah, sure. What do you mean by freedom, though? Like, Western societies aren't free. We're not free to do as we please. We're not free to talk about things. We're not free to behave in ways that we wish, to any extent. Like, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to condemn. We're not allowed to condemn Israel, or else we go to jail.
And freedom is an individual decision.
Y'all, I'm so scared, though. I mean, I don't blame you for being scared. This is a country of millions of people that Trump is just like, yeah, we've taken their oil. Bad things are going to happen to them.
A rational decision. And it's the sum of these individual conscious decisions that bring that collective ethos that creates the force, the strength, and the courage to fight for freedom, to defend it when you got it. And that courage comes from the things that truly matter in your life, the things that you love. And when you feel that those things are most in danger, then the courage increases. That's why I am convinced that peace...
we got a therapy speak president of Venezuela.
Ultimately, it's an act of love. And that's what brought me here. The love of millions of Venezuelans for our country, for freedom, and for our children. And I believe there's no other generation in the history of Venezuela that loves more freedom, our family, and our soul, our territory.
However you feel about Maduro, Chavez objectively in his generation and the concept of being free from Western imperialism was obviously there, and the freedom to define and live with dignity in your own lives. I was watching a video about like how the economy of Venezuela was destroyed, and the guy did not mention Chavez. He literally just talked about Maduro, and all of the two were just linked together.
Possibility of actually being in your homeland, in moving freely in your homeland, because we have lost that. And as I mentioned to you, the force that brought this country, our nation together, was this longing that we want our children back home. And we will not stop until they do that. And we give them a country in which they can live with dignity, with justice, and the responsibility that comes with freedom. So we have great admiration for Norway's institutions and democracy. We shared.
Norway always be cooking up some crazy shit, like the Oslo Accords, for example, and also Terjerod Larsen, the guy who was like a key figure in the Oslo Accords, was also a good personal friend of Jeff Eppie.
Benefits that nature has given us, and we admire the way this society has used them on behalf of your people. Quite the contrary of what has happened in Venezuela. So we have.
By the way, this was also weirdly, this was the exact narrative that I heard in the thing, that it's like, Venezuela didn't build a sovereign wealth fund, and that's kind of the problem. And how true that is, I'm not an expert in the economics of Venezuela, and in my understanding, there is huge gross mismanagement from around Maduro, and he did engage in an authoritarian crackdown. But do not believe any of this. This is not the reason that they are invading the country. As I say, none of these people give a singular shit about authoritarianism. Not Trump, not Europe, none of them. None of them care about Sisi, none of them care about throwing money at dictators.
To learn, and we have used.
Is she actually a buddy of Bolsonaro?
Norway as an example several times during these decades. And believe me, we will turn Venezuela into that energy, technological, and democracy hub of the Americas, and we count on you. And I, long for that day, and we will host all of you in a bright, democratic, and free country, and it's going to be soon. So,
God, it is so terrifying that you just know that this is going to happen. That this is like the eve of war is here. I genuinely thought they might have gone back, that they may have been like from the brink pulled back, but no, it's happening.
Thank you very much, and very honored and grateful to the Nobel Committee for this recognition to the Venezuelan people, to a great movement. I'm just one of that millions of people that form it. And I do believe it is a recognition to democracy as well. So thank you.
She's very creepy looking.
Very much.
I don't think I'd like her to be my president. She lacks aura, is my main issue. The Wall Street Journal also, by the way, said that the tanker was seized. Wall Street Journal, here's the article. Wall Street Journal, seizure of oil tanker came just hours after the US sneaked Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado out of the country on a boat. An escape that potentially gave the Trump administration an opening to take more aggressive action against the Maduro regime. Oh. I want to see the clip of her daughter. Oh, wait. No. We're talking about this. We're going to listen to this.
On Swedish radio. Yesterday, the US seized a ship outside the coast of Venezuela. Would you welcome a US military intervention in Venezuela?
Look, some people talk about invasion in Venezuela, the threat of an invasion in Venezuela, and I answered, Venezuela has been already invaded. We have the Russian agents, we have the Iranian agents, we have terrorist groups such as Hezbollah, Hamas.
Oh, she did say fucking Hamas have invaded. Amazing.
Operating freely in accordance with the regime.
Hello, Dave.
Like, just like listening to this, it's very clear what they're trying to appeal to. And by the way, some of this discourse emerged like not long ago. I think it was the Washington Post, right, who were doing this. Yeah. We literally got a Wall Street Journal article about this. How Venezuelan gangs and African jihadists are flooding Europe with coke. Amazing. Fucking amazing. I can't wait for the war on terror based on Hamas. The war on terror based on invading Venezuela because of Hamas. And yeah, I think the thing is that it's not necessarily that it's about, the US government taking oil. It's much more about private companies taking oil. We got a long conversation of her with the BBC.
Maria Corina Machado, welcome to BBC News.
Machado, sorry.
Thank you for joining us. And Jorgen Frieders, thank you for joining us. So, congratulations on your Nobel Peace Prize. And you are now here. How do you feel?
I am. First of all, I'm very grateful, of course, to the Norwegian committee.
They've got their dissident to now say is representative of everyone's opinion in Venezuela.
The novel, because of this unique recognition to...
Yeah, also, just this stuff being about a drug war, when I didn't talk about this story, but I actually did quite a bit of research. Did any of you see that a guy who was involved with the October surprise and a former key DEA agent were arrested for engaging in a huge plan to give weaponry...
It is utterly ridiculous.
To give weaponry to like a gang. Please call Congress, vote yes for war power resolution. There's a very short video by the Grey Zone
Virginia
here.
in front of what is said to be the House of...
Like, the reason I bring this up is because obviously CIA and drug trafficking by these people has been going on for the longest time. And thanks for the $2. I just worry that, like, calling representatives doesn't work, but it's something that you can do, and at least it's a way that you can feel that, you know, you play a part, and I'm not diminishing that. It's just, like, it's so difficult because these people make these decisions totally unaccountable to the government. And the guy is Roberto Sensi, who was, like, a long-time CIA asset who embezzled money from... So these two were arrested together. Roberto Sensi apparently worked with the CIA right up until his arrest, and they were basically going to give weapons to a drug gang.
Paul Campo, which was raided last Thursday by federal agents following an indictment from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York.
Oh shit, it's got music on. I'm worried about that. But if you want to check out the video and the story, maybe I'll talk about it another day. I just played the video of her talking about it. We'll see what she's saying on BBC.
The Venezuelan people that has brought so much hope and enthusiasm and even further unity in our country. And I'm still trying to believe that I'm here in Oslo at last with all of you and with my family, which I had not seen for a very long time.
How was that, to not just see your family, but to hug them and to smell them and to touch them again?
Well, for over 16 months, I haven't been able to hug or touch anyone. So it certainly has been a very profound sentiment, suddenly in a matter of few hours to be able to see the people I love most on their eyes and touch them and cry together and pray together. And then I had a chance to meet also with hundreds of Venezuelan people that are outside the hotel and to feel that, you know, warm one.
There is going to be quite possibly a huge amount of death and killing in Venezuela.
Again.
And she's just sat here getting like a glowing interview from the BBC. It is crazy. Like, once again, I feel like we've had very limited focus on the fact is Trump is like on the brink of destroying yet another country. And it's just like, these are the glowing interviews that we're getting.
And after such a long time, it's, you know, it's the reason why I do what I do. It's because I trust the people.
And they've given you things?
Oh, yes. You know, these just were given to me by Venezuelans that were outside, and it's always the same gesture. People take their rosaries from their own neck and they put it on me, and they have stories. One of the women down outside told me, George, that actually I think it's this one, that she has brought it with her 20 years ago when she left Venezuela, and now that she wanted me to have it. So imagine all the energy that this brings to me. I think I have over 7,000 or 8,000 rosaries that I've received all around Venezuela. No?
And Jorgen, how is it for you right now that it's actually happened? Because there were moments this morning where we weren't sure whether we would be sitting here together.
Well, I'm not only speaking on my own behalf, but behalf of the committee, and I would say the people here, Venezuelans, Norwegians, many, many more. It's emotional. Having you here after that journey, but to have you finally here, having your daughter representing you in the best way in Oslo City Hall today, but then in the middle of the night to have you here. It's incredible. It's hard to describe with words what it means to the Nobel Committee and to all of us.
You must be.
It is just also mental that someone like this is just an ally of Likud, and we're meant to believe that she's like this awesome, peace-loving, freedom-loving, amazing woman. Her address to the patriots of Europe was not a one-time dalliance with racists and fascists. Her party, Vente Venezuela, entered into a formal alliance in 2020 with Israel's ruling Likud party, a partnership she personally signed and that remains in effect today. Likud is, as you know, Likud is Netanyahu's party. It's accused of many crimes. Machado has praised Israel's government, declared that the struggle of Venezuela is the struggle of Israel, and pledged to move Venezuela's embassy to Jerusalem, despite Israel's ongoing illegal occupation. Like, how this person can win a Nobel Peace Prize and get a glowing interview is just truly amazing, but then actually winning a Nobel Peace Prize, seemingly not that surprising.
So proud of your daughter today.
Oh, I've been proud of her all her life, and my sons as well.
Like, why not ask her what changes are you planning to make in Venezuela? Why do I need to hear about her daughter and like hear her just like humanized in this way? Like, let's talk about what she's gonna do.
No, they have taken a really hard part of all this struggle, no? When they graduated, because I had to send them out of the country. They didn't want to leave.
Like, objectively, people's lives are going to be torn apart over bullshit. Like, Trump says this is about drug trafficking. It's not about democracy. These people all know this. I don't need to hear her glowing opinions. Talk about serious stuff.
I forced them to go because I couldn't do my job and at the same time protect them. So, they were the only ones in their classes at graduation to be without their mother, and she married. I wasn't with her, and my son just married and I wasn't with him. So it gives me a big sense of guilt, but at the same time I have so much support from them, and they are the reason why I do it, as well as all Venezuelan children, which I today feel are my own as well.
Like, I guarantee you that the lives of average Venezuelans will not get better in the same way that the lives of Argentinians have not gotten better under Milei. She may not be as crazy as Milei, but still.
So I'm very proud of all of them, because for what they do and they have done for this cause.
Were you thinking of those other daughters, those other mothers today in Venezuela and around the world who have not had this moment that you've been able to have, who have been
absolutely.
separated?
Look, I believe that the main longing that has brought our country together after so many years that the Chavista regime has tried to divide us for all reasons, for race, religion, origin, and so on. What brought our country back together is that we want our families back home, we want our children back home. So that tear down all differences because, we were united by values. So, of course, coming here, I was thinking on this immense possibility that I was going to have, and I was thinking in the mothers of the political prisoners.
Yeah, great to just hear. Great. Like, this is not something that that the BBC gives a shit about. This is not something that Western society gives a shit about. I am sorry, listening to this, it's not that Maduro might not be all of these things, that he may not have engaged in a violent repression of people. It is just that it is so odious from these people who have supported Israel unequivocally, who support other dictators unequivocally, who have close relationships with the brutal dictators of Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who don't give a shit about the families of any dissidents there. And she won't either. Palestinian dissidents. This woman doesn't give a shit, and we're meant to believe that she's this, freedom-loving, is gonna fix Venezuela. It's just ridiculous.
Do my talk every week, because we are in touch all the time, and but I know that soon they will have this immense, joy that I had today, a few hours ago.
I have to ask you about the version of the story that is now widely circulating about your escape. It's
Okay.
been talked about here in Oslo.
Okay, this is enough. I cannot watch another BBC arse-licking piece. Jesus Christ. Her daughter's speech was rousing too. Hold on.
Vibrant democracy. My generation was born in a vibrant democracy, and we took it for granted. We assumed freedom was as permanent as the air we breathed. We cherished our rights, but we forgot our duties. I was raised by a father whose life's work, building, creating, serving, taught me that loving a country meant assuming responsibility for its future. By the time we recognized how fragile our institutions had become, a man who had once led a military coup to overthrow democracy was elected president. Many thought charisma could substitute the rule of law. From 1991 onward, the regime dismantled our democracy.
Hugo Chavez was elected 5 times. Like, what is this? Like, I'm sorry, I'm sure that there's popularity of, like, a rejection of Maduro, but Chavez was elected 5 times. Democratically elected. No problems were found by Jimmy Carter, the same people who would be cited, the Carter Center, sorry, to cite, like, you know, well, the Maduro government is not legitimate, it's not acceptable. But yeah, listen to this. Hugo Chavez was democratically elected 5 times over the course of 14 years. Chavez won these elections by massive margins. He prevailed in the 1998 presidential election with 56% of the vote. He was re-elected in 2000, netting 60% of votes cast. In 2004, Chavez won a recall referendum with 59%. In 2006, he was again victorious, receiving a whopping 63% of the vote. And in 2012, while dying of cancer, he still triumphed, this time garnering 55% of the vote. This is just not true. And I do not doubt that there is a lack of popularity of Maduro, although I do think an American invasion will probably create a rally around the flag effect. But simultaneously, like, it's just not true. There is no way that this is in touch with reality and the experience of like average Venezuelans. On the rare occasions when Chavez suffered a political defeat, e.g. the December 2007 referendum on constitutional changes, he accepted the loss immediately. It's true that he engaged in certain practices that are open to criticism, such as gerrymandering and using executive decrees to get around congressional opinion. But these practices are common in many actually existing democracies, including the US, and hardly constitute evidence that Chavez was a dictator. By the way, this was written in response to, did you know Bernie Sanders called Hugo Chavez a dictator? Which doesn't surprise me all that much. But, like, it just talks about many other things that he did, that extreme poverty fell. Like, this is just crap.
Violating the Constitution, falsifying our history, corrupting the military, purging independent judges.
This is what Trump has done. This is the basis of the US. This is the guy who's going to tear your country to pieces. And you are going to feel none of that effect because you are rich and live outside and you get to swoop in and sell it off to private investment and make a fucking killing. You know that your family is about to be one of the richest families in Venezuelan history. Venezuela gave salaries to housewives as well. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Censoring the press, manipulating elections, persecuting dissent, and ravaging our extraordinary biodiversity.
Just amazing. Just amazing. Truly amazing that this is what's talked about on our TV. Oh, I cannot wait for the invasion of Venezuela. Amazing. There was another video. Oh, wait, I know where it is. Someone made, like, a tweet about her history. I barely covered what I wanted to cover today, but I don't really care. I think we've had a good stream, to be honest. There's a history of her written by Ofshin Ratansi? I don't know. But anyway, reminder, this is the record of CIA asset and Nobel Peace Fast Prize Maria Corina Machado, who the US wants to install in Miraflores to kill Venezuela's Bolivarian revolution. Signed the 2002 order by Pedro Carmona to destroy Venezuelan democracy by dissolving the National Assembly, the Supreme Court, and the Bolivarian Constitution, which had been approved by a popular referendum in 1999, which expanded indigenous economic and social rights. This coup against Chavez was backed by the administration of war criminal George Bush, wrote a letter to Israeli war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. She's got a real thing for war criminals. Begging for Israeli intervention in Venezuela, supported Israel to the hilt in carrying out genocide in Gaza. Her NGO, Sumate, accepted cash from the National Endowment for Democracy and USAID. The US has cut out arms of regime change. And most recently, promised to sell the entire country's resources. This is the one I want to talk about.
Forget about Saudi Arabia. Forget about the Saudis. I mean, we have more oil. I mean, infinite potential.
With Donald Trump Jr. No fucking way. I watched this clip earlier and I didn't even clock that this is Donald Trump Jr. If you do not realize the level of corruption that is coming, Venezuela better be ready. Things are going to improve, by the way, because you've got freedom and democracy.
And we're going to open markets. We're going to kick off the government from the oil sector. We are going to
This is why there has been no serious questions asked about her. There have been no serious questions asked about her in the BBC. Of course there's not going to be.
privatize all our industry. Venezuela has huge resources.
She's doing her pitch to the most corrupt presidency in US history, and that is saying something. She is doing her pitch to the son of the kingmaker.
Oil, gas, minerals, land, technology. And as you said before, we have a strategic location, hours from the United States. So we're going to do this right. We know what we have to do. And American companies are in, super strategic position to invest. This country, Venezuela, is going to be the brightest opportunity for investment.
Just imagine talking about this. This is what she's talking about.
Of American companies, of good people that are going to make a lot of money. Forget about Saudi Arabia. Forget about people that are going to make a lot of money.
Look at what she's actually focused on when she talks about what's going to happen there. It's not the betterment of the lives of people of Venezuela. It's stripping the country so Donald Trump Jr. and the cartel of people around him can get insanely, insanely rich.
This is the oil tanker that was seized by the US.
And Sky News is thankfully giving us an opinion on this.
Off the coast of Venezuela. It's called Skipper, and it spent years trying to be undetected. But why was it trying to go under the radar? We've analysed its movements, and this is what we found. Over the past 2 years, Skipper has been tracked to countries under US sanctions, including Iran. In mid-November, it was pictured at the Jose oil export terminal in Venezuela. It was loaded with more than 1 million barrels of crude oil. It left the port between the 4th and the 5th of December. And according to tracking data,
I also think it's such a misrepresentation of people who want change. This is always why I balk at, regime change advocates in Iran and stuff. Because genuinely, people in Iran want change, but they don't want to just be sold out to the US. Israel cultivating that, the son of the Shah as, some reasonable guy. Come on, that's not what Iranians want. They want freedom, not more authoritarianism.
was due to head to Cuba. Around 5 days later, it was seized here, off the coast of Venezuela. The ship was boarded by the US Coast Guard, who flew by helicopters from the world's largest and most deadly aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford. The skipper has transported nearly 13 million barrels of Iranian...
Why has it got slop fucking, ching-ching sounds? Cha-ching!
...and Venezuelan oil since 2021, according to tankertrackers.com. When it was seized, it was faking its position. It was more than 400 miles away from its actual one. The skipper has tried to go unnoticed for years. It's been regularly using a method called spoofing. This is where it transmits a fake location, not its actual one.
So they're transmitting data, but similarly to how a VPN is using to, in order to manipulate it, the regulators from which place you have been logged into your account. In a similar way, the vessel is manipulating the race signer. There is no reason to play with the hardware. It is just a software system over there. So you just play with the locations that you are based in. So you can transmit a signal from Venezuela, and you can declare that you are not in Venezuela, but you are in Brazil.
The US has been building up its naval and air power in the Caribbean since August. But until now, they've been targeting drug smuggling boats. Sky News has verified.
I love how they don't even say. They say that they've been targeting drug smuggling boats. Because who genuinely knows?
Strikes on 23 boats, killing 87 people. This new focus on oil tankers could mark the start of new US action, increasing the pressure on the Venezuelan government.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I'm not hopeful for what's to come. But it remains to be seen. I won't be live tomorrow. Don't think I'll be live over the weekend. I'm recording with Noah and Isaac tomorrow, so you better be looking forward to that. Oh, Jesus. Thank you all for coming, though. I'm tired now, and it's time for a break. So thank you all for coming. Have a lovely rest of the day. And Pravender, I know you just got here. Sorry, bro. But yeah, we move. Thank you all for coming, as always. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the donations. Lovely to see you. See you again soon. See you again on Monday, probably. Or on, depending on when Isaac edits the podcast, maybe before then. I'm not playing Geoguess. I've been live for nearly 4 hours. Bro. But yeah, we move. Thank you all for coming, as always. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the donations. Lovely to see you. See you again soon. See you again on Monday, probably. Or on, depending on when Isaac edits the podcast, maybe before then.